Shut up, man. I can't believe, of all things to hang over me forever, it's gonna be Kraka. Kraka, the frickin' ground-based clasp. Whatever, dude, that's just a clasp. That's just a clasp who fell off the rope, dude. Alright. So, gonna be real. I'm feeling a little under the weather today. I almost, canceled today's stream, because I was like, ugh. It's one of those days where I just feel kind of, like, not great, and, kind of tired, but I was like, whatever, we'll see how it goes. If I, like, crash after reading the novelization or something, we can, maybe try to do the rest some other time, but I think I'll be fine. Hopefully I just don't, like, look or sound as bad as I feel, but I think I'll be okay. How's everybody doing on this Saturday besides me? Hopefully you're feeling a little better than I am. Okay, let me separate this out onto its own thing. Try to get it on the capture here. Ooh, spaghetti. I haven't had spaghetti in a while. Me and Victor, at the beginning of, like, the COVID pandemic, we went to Costco, and we bought 20 pounds of spaghetti from Costco. And, it lasted us for years. And finally, we just had a little bit left, and, his mom made us throw it out, because she didn't think it was good anymore. We got through most of it. Alright, there we go. It's just that easy. Let's go ahead and turn this blue thing off. Alright, illustrations by Leaf Pang, good old person who helped teach us how to draw the Kremlings and, you know, the Kongs. But we don't care about them. I'm so low energy today, I hope I can do this wonderful book justice. I'm serious. Alright. Hopefully that's good. Is there banana spaghetti? Like, spaghetti that's made out of banana? Or, like... You could make banana spaghetti just, like, instead of spaghetti sauce, you just mash up some bananas and put it in there. You could do that. Can't be having spaghetti. That's like Mario's food. What the hell? This isn't the Mario... What's a good M word that's similar to chronology? The Mario master plan. I don't know. The Mario masterpiece theater. There we go. So I decided to wear this shirt again because we are going to be looking at a feature on how Rare does these ACM graphics. But I decided we'd start with the novelization today, because technically it's not new. So we'll start with the old stuff first. We have looked at this on my stream before, back in 9-10 months ago, something like that. Back in April, whatever. And also because when we look at the Nintendo Power that has the big feature on Donkey Kong Land, it does have a preview of Donkey Kong Country 2. So that will lead us directly into our next episode, so I figured we'd do that last. That just makes sense. So yeah, I'm gonna be real. I don't know if I can handle listening to the Donkey Kong Land soundtrack the entire time we're, like, reading this book. Because it's, like, it's good. I really like the Donkey Kong Land soundtrack, but I feel like the Game Boy music is a little distracting, like, underneath talking and stuff. It's so, like, high energy, which, you know, they needed it to be. Since they didn't have all the, like, cool ambient noises and stuff, they just had to make some really banging tunes, but I feel like it's a little distracting to have underneath the reading, you know. So you know what? I don't actually even have the cloud music on. When I download playlists for games, I usually don't get every single song. I just do a selection of, like, the songs that I like. I did not get the cloud music on. I don't have it on my list, because when I downloaded this years ago, I was like, no, I don't want to hear that music ever again. And that's still true, you know? Like, it's okay. It's a fine song, but I don't want to hear it. So we are going to go, and instead of listening to this, we are going to listen to... It's just Donkey Kong Country music. Or, I think what I did last time was Donkey Kong or Diddy Kong Racing music, which I don't know, it just kind of seems like it fits. That might kind of run into the same problem with the high energy stuff though, so I'm just gonna do the back to the DKC soundtrack. This will be the last time we listen to it before we move on to other things, so, you know, it's fair, it's fair. Yeah, actually, I'll say this again at the end, but I will be taking a week off. So I'm streaming this weekend, but then next weekend I'll take a week off, and then we'll start Donkey Kong Country 2 on, I believe, Valentine's Day, right? Because, you know, it's a game about love. Diddy and Dixie are a couple, so that's perfect. So we'll be starting DKC 2 and really finishing DKC 2, I'd imagine, playing it all in one day on Valentine's Day. And next weekend, I am actually going to a local reptile zoo to see crocodiles in person and other lizards and such reptile things. But that is very exciting for me. It's actually been some years since I've last seen a real crocodile with my own eyes. So nothing could be more important than that. I gotta get that research in there. But so I will come back to you with some crocodile tales. But next weekend, I need a week off for various things just to catch up on stuff and prepare for it'll be the next chapter of the series when we focus on Donkey Kong Country 2 and Donkey Kong Land 2. So, let's just go ahead and start the DKC music. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. Alright. So I am feeling like a little sniffly today. I took some allergy meds, but if I have to stop in the middle of this to like blow my nose or something, I'm sorry. It's just how it is. Yes, I love that the publisher for a whole lot of these game novelizations back in the day was Troll, which, you know, didn't have the internet connotations, but it's very funny to me. Like, they were just trolling with this book because it has some insane stuff in it for sure. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started here. Music's not overbearing me or anything, it's fine, I would imagine. Alright, let me set up my stream situation a little better. All the wonderful stuff that will get cut out of the YouTube video. Also, I plan to get the Donkey Kong Land episodes up on YouTube soon. I want to make some art for their thumbnails, so that's like the only thing I'm waiting on. Okay. Did that mess up the stream by moving it over there? Just a second. Okay, alright, we're good. I think we're good. Alright. So, we've read this before, like I said earlier, and I just want you to know that it has very little to do with the game we just played. It's basically... Okay, first of all, Funky is in this. Funky isn't even in Donkey Kong Land. I don't even think he's, like, mentioned in the instruction book. It's not like Cranky where... You know, Cranky is a big part of the story of Donkey Kong Land, but he's not actually in the game, but he's like the impetus for the whole story. Cranky's in this, of course, because he inserts himself into all these novelizations. They knew that people loved Cranky, and the novelization writers also loved Cranky, I guess. But Funky, I don't think has anything to do with the actual game of Donkey Kong Land whatsoever. But he's in this. He's got a big part to play in this. And, it does not have... It's basically just Big Ape City. I don't know... It has no cloud platform nonsense. They didn't, you know, try to novelize that. It does have hogwashes. But basically, I won't spoil much more. We'll see what this book is about. It's kind of insane, and it is kind of action movie-like, the best way to describe it. I don't know. It's like they wanted to write, like, a Die Hard for Donkey Kong or something. It's a little odd. But unfortunately, it is not about Cranky. I said this before, but what I really would have done if I was writing this is adapt the story of Donkey Kong Land by having Cranky say that kids don't read anymore these days and that no one would read a book about Donkey Kong and challenge them to, like, beat K. Rool in the form of a book and then they just do it. But unfortunately, it is not fourth wall breaking like that. It is really, it's just almost like this is just kind of its own independent story that there's really like, this isn't really Donkey Kong Land. It's almost just like a completely different story that we can also say happened at the same time that, you know, like Donkey Kong Land happened and then this also happened either kind of concurrently or earlier or before or something, because there's like really nothing, there's not that much overlap between them, so. Anyway, let's do it. Enough chatting. Okay. You won't want to miss Donkey Kong Country. So we already read that one, and they had not come out with the Donkey Kong Country 2 novelization yet, I guess, but we will be reading that one when we get there. Yeah, this is a book for Funky fans, and it's also a book for Amelia, so wherever you are, Amelia, I hope you like Funky Kong. This book is dedicated to Amelia, so, you know, this book is the real reason why Funky Kong became such a popular and beloved character. People read this and they were like, you know, we gotta save Funky. I care about Funky so much. Alright. The morning sun glimmered brightly over Donkey Kong Island. Standing under his treehouse, Donkey Kong looked up through the branches and smiled. "It's a beautiful day for flying," he said to Diddy Kong, the young monkey standing next to him. "I can't wait," replied Diddy excitedly. "I've been looking forward to this for weeks." Suddenly, the quiet of the jungle morning was shattered by the sound of an airplane engine roaring overhead. "There he is," shouted Diddy, pointing straight up. "Look." Donkey Kong looked up and spotted the plane. The custom-built flying machine looked like an oversized barrel that had sprouted wings and a tail. You know, come to think of it, Candy and Funky weren't in the Donkey Kong Country book, were they? So maybe they felt bad about leaving them out and then just decided to make this all about Funky, but no Candy, though. Candy... Unfortunately, they did not fit Candy in here. Although I guess it's kind of... You know, they could have made her the damsel in distress. That would have been really, like, stereotypical, but making Funky the damsel in distress is kind of interesting. Like, this was before K. Rool, like, was kidnapping Kongs that we knew about. Like, this is before Donkey Kong himself got kidnapped. So, Funky was, like, the original Kong that K. Rool kidnaps, actually. So, you know, it wasn't Candy Kong, it was Funky Kongs. Candy's never been kidnapped. K. Rool doesn't kidnap girls, actually. He's a gentleman, except for Tiny Kong. But that was just, like, one exception that proves the rule, you know? K. Rool is drinking his, like, respecting women juice. Alright. The plane looped, then dove right at the ground. "Something's wrong," cried Diddy. "He's gonna crash." Donkey Kong and Diddy ran for cover as the plane continued to plunge toward the ground. At the last possible second, the flying barrel pulled out of its dive and coasted to a smooth landing right in front of the two Kongs. The cockpit door flew open and out stepped the pilot, Funky Kong. "Just surfing the wind currents, dude," said Funky Kong. "Nothing to get uptight about. Stay mellow, stay cool." Donkey Kong cleared his throat. We knew that," he said. "Funky Kong, I'd like you to meet my little buddy Diddy." So Funky and Diddy have never met each other before this moment. It's kind of like we got the Squawk's origin story in the previous book. They hadn't met Squawks before. Let's see. Where did I leave off? There you go. "Hey there, dude," said Funky. "Ready for your ride?" Diddy hesitated for a second, thinking about the landing Funky had just made. "It's okay, Diddy," said Donkey Kong. "I've flown with Funky a lot, and I'm still around to talk about it. In fact, Funky's business is taking folks from place to place on Donkey Kong Island. He's got lots of experience in the air." How does Diddy not even know about this? He doesn't even know about, like, the main airplane service on Donkey Kong Island. He doesn't get out much. Diddy put aside his fears and headed for the barrel plane. "Here you go, Donkey," said Funky, handing him a walkie-talkie. "You can use this to talk to us while we're zooming through the sky." Just then a voice called out from behind them. "You know him, you love him, it's Cranky Kong. Hold on a vine-swinging minute. It was Cranky Kong, Donkey Kong's granddad." "What in the name of monkey madness do you think you're doing?" Is this the simian sense one? Is this the one where he really talks about simian sense all the time, or is that the next one? I don't remember. Hey, Notator, how's it going? I mean, what's what's Diddy going to do if he thinks a plane is going to crash out of the air? Like, how's he gonna save, how's he gonna save Funky? He's gonna, like, jump up and, like, catch him? He's, you know, Diddy's just being practical here. He doesn't have his jetpacks yet. Cranky has not invented his jetpacks. Diddy's going on his first plane ride ever, Pops, explained Donkey Kong. I hate flying, snapped back Cranky Kong. Why, if apes were meant to fly, they'd have wings. Yes, sir, I like it right here on the ground. If you had any sense, you'd stay put with your feet firmly planted on the jungle floor. I'll be okay, Cranky, said Diddy. Funky's a great pilot. I like how he just, like, he really trusts DK because he doesn't know that. In fact, he just, to his mind, saw Funky about to crash. But Diddy, DK was like, no, he's actually good. And Diddy's like, oh yeah, I trust him. Funky's the best. Hold on, what is this? Oh no, I've seen this. I should have brought this up when we were looking at the Greg Mails tweets, but, you know, we already had enough to do. But Greg Mails talking about, the minecart madness Kremling at the end that gets you. The one at the very end that's really trolly, is named Christina. So, you know, as I've said in the past, just because we don't know that there's female critters out there, there are. I just, like, splashed some water out of my water bottle onto my glasses. I'm having a day, y'all. So, Kremlings that have names, canonically, that one's Christina. And he also said the one that's bouncing up and down at the end of Barrel Cannon Canyon, I think it was, is Kevin. Which is funny, because the guy in Gloomy Galleon, the Kasplat, who, like, walks around with the water, like, half covering him, is Kevin, according to the DK64 randomizer community. That guy's also Kevin. Kevin's probably a pretty common Kremling name, I think. Anyway. The coolest of the cool, little dude, said Funky. Hop in. As Cranky continued to complain about how much he hated flying, Diddy climbed in the barrel plane, followed by Funky. Diddy's heart pounded with excitement as Funky started up the engines. Hang on, said the pilot. We're out of here. I like that Cranky's just continuing to, like, rant on in the background and, like, no one is paying attention to him. With a powerful whoosh that practically knocked Cranky and Donkey Kong over, the barrel plane took off. It soared above the trees into the sky. Woo! Shouted Diddy, looking down at the jungle beneath him. Donkey Kong heard him on the walkie-talkie. How you doing, little buddy? Asked Donkey Kong. Diddy's voice came crackling through the walkie-talkie speaker. This is great! I can see the whole island from here. Whoa! Funky took Diddy on a wild ride through the sky, looping the loop, plunging down until they were just above the treetops, and then pulling out of the dive at the last minute and soaring straight up. Sounds fun. This is so cool, Diddy shouted as the world rushed past him in a blur. I told you it would be, said Donkey Kong from the speaker on the cockpit's dashboard. Yo, Funky has, like, a fucking high-tech plane. Like, look at this. It's just, like, a barrel on the outside, but you go inside and, like, it's pretty cool. It's very advanced. Hey, Donkey, said Diddy. I can see the snow-covered mountains, the ocean, the treetop town, even the old ruins. Better to see some of those places from the air than to be in them, that's for sure, said Donkey Kong. Off in the distance, Diddy spotted what looked like a huge city. What's that? He asked, pointing to the buildings that made up the city's skyline. Diddy knows nothing about his own island. Like, is Diddy, like, 5 years old or something? Like, Donkey Kong Island it's big. It's not that big. Yeah, everything is made out of barrels. That used to be the biggest city on Donkey Kong Island, explained Funky. Oh, that was Funky. I thought that was like DK. That used to be the biggest city on Donkey Kong Island, explained Funky. It's called Big Ape City. Once again, Donkey Kong's voice came from the dashboard. Lots of folks on the island used to live there, but over the years, more and more of them moved out. They moved to the jungles, caves, treetops, mountains, all over. The city fell into ruins. It's been completely abandoned for years and years. Okay, so this is interesting because everyone has their own headcanon for Big Ape City. Especially now. Like, how does it relate to New Donk City? Is Big Ape City where the arcade games took place? It's probably at least where Donkey Kong 94 took place. But Is it, you know, like, is it New Donk City where that took place, or is it Big Ape City, etc.? And who built Big Ape City? Did the Kongs build it? Did humans build it and then they moved on? But according to this book, so this book's theory is that Kongs built it, but, you know, they decided in the end that wasn't really their vibe, you know, like, Kongs are a nature-loving people, and they didn't want to live in a big city like this, so, you know, they built it, and they were like, we tried this out, we don't like it. And they moved back out to the jungles, to, you know, the countryside, the treetops. So I actually think that's really cool, like, you know, that explains, like, the Kongs have this industrialism, they weren't, like, too unadvanced to, like, have this technology and stuff, they just, like, purposefully decided that they don't like it, and they would rather do stuff that's more in harmony with nature. So, you know, it's just a one take on it, but I think it's pretty cool. Oh yeah? said Diddy. Well, if no one lives there anymore, how come I see smoke and lights coming from the city? You got me, little dude, replied Funky. He pulled out his binoculars and peered into the distance. Diddy's right, Donkey Kong. Looks like something's happening down there. I see black smoke. Pretty weird. Yeah, Funky knows all about smoke. Well, I'm not sure they really like the factories being on their island, but they just didn't really do anything about it for a while. Let's go check it out, said Diddy, hoping for an adventure. We could probably fly there in no time. Put the brakes on, little dude, said Funky, shaking his head. I don't go looking for trouble. Most of the time, it doesn't come looking for me. Yeah, that's why he was never playable until Tropical Freeze. He just isn't looking for trouble, you know? If anything weird is going on in Big Ape City, I'm the last guy who's gonna stick his good-looking neck out to see what it is. Now just stay cool and enjoy the rest of the flight. Diddy Kong was a bit disappointed, but he still enjoyed the rest of his first plane ride. Funky zoomed down for one of his hair-raising landings, which left Diddy squeezing his eyes shut and screaming with joy at the top of his lungs. Yeah, man, after this, the roller coasters in Crazy Kremling were like nothing to him. He was like, yawn, boring. Dixie was like, yeah, and Diddy was like, this is nothing to, like, compared to my plane rides with, my private plane rides with Funky Kong. True. Well, we did actually read something with Bluster in it a few weeks ago, but that was a comic, you know. Back on the ground, Diddy leaped from the plane, did a cartwheel, and ran over to Donkey Kong. That was the most fun I've ever had, said Diddy. I knew you'd like flying, said Donkey Kong, smiling. Bah, flying, groaned Cranky. A waste of time, if you ask me. There's nowhere any self-respecting ape would want to go that he can't get to on his own two hairy feet. Diddy turned to Funky, who had just stepped from the barrel plane. Thanks a lot, Funky. That was great. Anytime, little dude, replied Funky. Any old time. Just then a beeping came from the cockpit on the barrel plane. They're playing my tune, said Funky. Someone must need a flight. Funky checked in with the beeper in his plane. I gotta go pick up a passenger on the other side of the island, explained Funky. So I'm out of here. Stay cool and catch a wave if you can, dudes. Funky hopped back into the barrel plane and took off. You just know that this person had, like, a great time writing for Funky Kong's dialogue. I'm glad they were having fun. Well, true. I guess they never bothered to, like, actually tear down the factories or anything. But, you know, factories getting gradually, any kind of, like, civilizational ruins getting reclaimed gradually by nature is, like, peak aesthetic. So they knew about that, and they were like, you know, it sends a more powerful message if we let these factories slowly get reclaimed by the jungle and, like, crumble and fall apart and stuff instead of just manually tearing them down. Yeah, Frantic Factory isn't on Donkey Kong Island. It's either on Krim Isle or Krim Isle teleports you to wherever it is. Funky hopped back into the barrel plane and took off. As the plane disappeared from view, Donkey Kong realized he still had Funky's walkie-talkie. Oops, said Donkey Kong, I forgot to give it back. Why don't you turn it on and tell him, suggested Diddy. Donkey Kong flipped on the walkie-talkie. Hey, Funky, forget something? I guess I did, replied Funky, hearing Donkey Kong's voice come out his cockpit dashboard. I'll pick it up after I make this passenger run. Oh, by the way, tell Diddy that the route I have to get my passenger will bring me right over Big Ape City. I'll take a peek down for him as I fly over. A short while later, the walkie-talkie beeped. Funky's voice came through, only now it was very faint and interrupted by loud static. I'm over Big City, very weird, flying pigs! Did he say flying pigs? Asked Diddy. That's what it sounded like to me, said Donkey Kong. But it's hard to hear him through all this static. Pigs swarming around the plane, came Funky's voice again. Then the Kongs heard a terrible sound from the walkie-talkie speaker. It sounds like gunshots or explosions, said Donkey Kong, growing alarmed. Oh, now I know what that is. It's just Neckies. It's just Neckies throwing their nuts out. Hey, Malik. Are you here for some story time? I should have done this at night, actually, so that I can, like, read you all a story before bedtime. I'm like the Rosalina of the Donkey Kong fandom. Then the Kongs heard a terrible sound from the walkie-talkie. Oh, I already read this. Yeah, it's the Neckies throwing nuts at him with the explosion noise. Been hit! Going down! Going to crash! Then the speaker went silent. Dude, Funky's dead. Yeah, you know, I hope Diddy feels bad about this. This was his fault. You know, Funky didn't want anything to do with Big Ape City, but he was like, well, you know, if Diddy really wants to know, I'll go fly over it. But Necky did nut all over the plane. 2. Funky! Cried Diddy. Something terrible has happened to Funky. Someone shot down his plane over Big Ape City. But there's not supposed to be anyone in that city, replied Donkey Kong. I told you, I saw smoke and lights, said Diddy. We've gotta go find Funky, said Donkey Kong. That's all there is to it. Go, whined Cranky. What do you mean, go? To Big Ape City? Just how in the jolly jungle do you think you're gonna get there? On my own 2 hairy feet, Pops, replied Donkey Kong. Just like any self-respecting ape would do. Got him! Now look here, you whippersnapper, said Cranky. Don't get wise with me. Why, when I was your age, I once walked from the top of the snow-capped mountains to the... It's okay, Pop, said Donkey Kong. You don't have to come along. Diddy and I will go. Then turning to Diddy, he asked, You with me, little buddy? Anytime, anywhere, Donkey, said Diddy. In just a fine swinging minute, shouted Cranky. Do you really think I'm going to let you go off on another adventure alone? Thanks, Pop, said Donkey Kong. I knew I could count on you. Donkey Kong loaded his backpack! It's back! It's back. They were really trying to make the backpack a thing. Maybe this guy was trying to get in some, like, ideas to Rare. It's like, did I tell you about the backpack? Like, maybe in the next game, the Kongs can have backpacks. They can have backpacks, and they can just, like, grab some barrels out of it anytime they want. You can just throw some barrels. Maybe that inspired them for Banjo-Kazooie, you know? I bet Michael Teitelbaum is patting himself on the back. When Banjo-Kazooie came out, he was like, you know, they probably got that from me. The barrels could do different things. Some could even explode. You never know when you're going to run across a Kremling or two. Kremlings mentioned. It took until the 2nd chapter for them to surmise who might maybe be causing all this trouble in Big Ape City. Now, okay, remember how in the first book they didn't actually explain what Kremlings were, like, until, like, halfway through the book they mentioned them offhand being crocodiles, but if you didn't have the illustrations, you would have, like, no earthly idea what they were supposed to be. They were just like, they were monsters, they were evil creatures, and it's like, okay. But here, they're laying it on a little more directly. They're explaining it a little better. Kremlings were evil lizard-like creatures who had come to live on Donkey Kong Island. They stole bananas from the Kongs, and their factory polluted the island's air and water. Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky had blown up the factory. Yeah, they did. They fucking killed the zinger and the claptrap inside. But the Kremling leader, King K. Rool, had escaped along with his henchmen. Kremlings still infested the island and were a constant annoyance to the Kongs. They're just an annoyance. It's like, those Kremlings. Just getting up to no good. Yeah, well, like I've said before, they were referred to as crocodilian early on, but not always. A lot of early materials basically just called them like reptiles or lizards or something. So while visually they were very clearly crocodiles, that was always kind of like, for some reason, danced around, maybe so they could be a little more flexible with them in the future. I don't know. So, you know. When all their supplies were packed, the 3 Kongs set off through the jungle. It wasn't until DKC2 when we got, like, Crocodile Isle where it's like, okay, well, we're just gonna lock them into being crocodiles. Like, you know, there's no mistake about it. Yeah, I think the Kongs have canonically killed more people than the Kremlings at this point. Like, that zinger, they literally describe the factories going up in a ball of flame. That zinger and that claptrap, they unless they escaped just in time. They turned into a little pile of ashes on the ground with their eyes blinking like the kabooms in DK64. Soon the Kongs reached the treetop town at the edge of the jungle. Treetop Town, okay, I don't even think Donkey Kong Land had Treetop Town levels in it. So, not only did they not include a lot of stuff that actually is in the game, but they just put in some... I think this guy had to write this book, like, before knowing anything about Donkey Kong Land, except that there was, like, gonna be a city in it. I don't think he had much to go off of, to be honest. So just, like, write another Donkey... This is basically gonna be Donkey Kong Country again, but different, and it has a city, and it has flying pigs. And so he was like, okay, guess someone else is in this book, by the way, who is not in Donkey Kong Land, so get excited. We'll see him when we get there. Well, he mentioned that he traveled through the mountains when he was a kid, or younger, or whatever. At least the mountains were mentioned. It was once an active ape community, but when the Kremlings began their assault at Donkey Kong Island, they overran Treetop Town and now live there themselves. We'll have to move quickly and quietly under the platforms, whispered Donkey Kong. I was navigating these jungles when you were knee-high to a baby baboon, said Cranky. I'll lead. No, Pops, wait, said Donkey Kong. But it was too late. Cranky charged forward and tripped over a low vine. Oh, Cranky. Suddenly, floodlights burst on, lighting up the whole area. A loud alarm blared a warning to the Kremlings above. The darn place is booby-trapped, shouted Cranky as he got to his feet. Yeah, it would be booby-trapped if Clump was there, but he's not in the book just yet. That vine you tripped over must have triggered the alarm, said Donkey Kong. Kremlings dropped down from the platforms, and the Kongs were quickly surrounded by the evil beasts. Okay. Alright, be a little nicer to them. Get them, yelled one of the Kremlings, and they all charged at the Kongs. Donkey Kong grabbed an overhead vine and sprang into action. He swung into 3 charging Kremlings, feet first, scattering them like bowling pins. I'm just imagining the sound effect there. You know, if this was, like, animated, it would have, like, the bowling pins, like... I remember the first time I read this, we had just been playing a whole bunch of Mario Party 1, and I kept getting that stupid bowling minigame, so that's, like, what I immediately thought of when, when we read this. Diddy went into his cartwheel attack, springing off his hands and toppling 2 more Kremlings. Yeah, I'm just thinking of, like, you know, those, like, weird animated bowling things in bowling alleys that they had in, like, the 90s, and they just survived for, like, decades afterwards. But it's just, like, a bowling ball crashing into Kremlings, and they all go, like, onk at the same time as making, like, the bowling pins falling apart sound effect. Yeah, so... You know, I hope Michael Teitelbaum was still into the Donkey Kong series by the time Tropical Freeze came out, and he could also pat himself on the back for that one, because even Cranky got into the act, slamming several Kremlings on their feet with his cane, sending them hobbling in the bushes. He just, like, he didn't, like, smack them across the middle or anything. He, like, bashed down on their poor little claws, and you know, like, their feet, like, swelled up and got all red, and they were like, ouch, and they had to run off. Anyway, yes, sound effects. Good time for a random sound effect. Let's see what we get. That's true, you're right. He did predict that. Alright. Hold on. Thank you, Kitty. That's the sound the Kremlings made when their foot got smashed by Cranky's cane. Alright, that one, Mr. Dreamer. This one will be, this one is for Jero. That's On Guard. I don't think On Guard is in this book. You know, that is one way that it is accurate to the game. I do not think On Guard is in this book. He's in the next one again. And then one more. Ah. The good old click-clack getting off their back. It's always, this is such a, like, delightful little sound effect. I always liked it. Yeah, is Diddy's double jump in this book? I don't remember. Okay, back to this. Donkey Kong dropped down off his vine and found himself surrounded by 5 more Kremlings. Here, guys, he said, let me give you a hand. Oh, DK. Donkey Kong opened his palm and slammed the ground using all of his incredible strength. I told you that this one is kind of like a action movie, so DK's got to have his one-liners. His hand slap attack shook the jungle floor like an earthquake, and the Kremlings went flying off in all directions. Donkey Kong looked around. There were no Kremlings left standing. Yo, look at this. Honestly, this picture is so good. Look at him. Suddenly the Kongs heard loud booms from above. It's the Neckies again. The Kremlings are firing their barrel cannons, shouted Donkey Kong. Run for cover! Dangerous barrels showered down all around the Kongs as they dashed under a dense rubber tree. Those cannons are up too high to reach by throwing our barrels, said Diddy. Donkey Kong reached up and pulled down a low branch of the rubber tree. This should do the trick, he said, taking a TNT barrel from his pack. Donkey Kong pulled the branch back as far as it would go. He placed a TNT barrel on the end of the branch and let go. So here the Kongs are using their knowledge of the natural world to their advantage by using this rubber tree as a natural catapult. So that's pretty neat of him. The branch whipped around, flinging the barrel up toward the platforms. Fire one! Yelled Diddy. The TNT barrel sailed right into the mouth of a barrel can. I thought I was going to say the mouth of a Kremling. I'm pretty sure I had that same reaction the last time I read this, but I don't know. Like, you know, they're supposed to be kind of small barrels. It could fit in one. The TNT barrel sailed right into the mouth of a barrel cannon and exploded, destroying the cannon. Using the branch, he's got some really good aim to be able to throw. Like he uses a catapult essentially to put a barrel like right into the mouth of a cannon. That is like insanely good aim with a catapult type situation. Also, finally we're getting Funky's music to remind us of what we're fighting for here. Using the branch, Donkey Kong flung barrel after barrel up at the platforms until all the cannons had been destroyed. Way to go, Thriller Gorilla, said Diddy, jumping up to give Donkey Kong a high five. Not bad for a youngster, added Cranky. Come on, said Donkey Kong, let's get out of here. The Kongs moved past Treetop Town and soon came to the edge of the jungle. As they proceeded, the terrain got more and more rocky. They soon found themselves at the base of the snow-capped mountains. Okay, so they do go through the mountains in this. You know, it may be a little more accurate to the game than I remembered. I forgot about this part. Cranky began to complain. Of course he did. You think I'm climbing over this blasted blizzard hill? You got another thing come... Cranky stopped at the sound of a distant rumbling. What in the name of monkey madness is that? He whispered. The Kongs looked up and saw tons of snow racing down the side of the mountain above them. Avalanche! They all screamed together. There's nowhere to run, said Diddy in panic. There's too much snow. We're finished, cried Cranky. Maybe not, said Donkey Kong. He had spotted a tiny gap between 2 boulders at the base of the mountain. In there, he said, pointing. Hurry! The 3 Kongs squeezed through the small opening. It's pitch black in here, complained Cranky when they were all inside. I can't see my big hairy hand in front of my face. Cranky loves, you know, pointing out how hairy he is. Just in case you thought that maybe he was old, he wasn't covered in a, you know, thick, luscious body hair. You know, just so you know, he hasn't lost it, you know. He's not, like, balding all over his body. If there was a chapter about the platform, it would have to be like a fourth of the entire book, which is how crazy Crimland is in the DKC2 book. I guess that's where the person writing the book got stuck, because that's where it gets hard. Before anyone could respond, a deafening crash blocked out all other sound. It went on and on like the roar of the ocean. Wave after wave of snow pounded against the boulders that separated the Kongs from certain doom. And then it was over. The silence was eerie. Everybody all right? Asked Donkey Kong. Oh, just fine, said Cranky. We're trapped behind 1,000,000 tons of snow in total darkness. Never been better. Yeah, well, I guess, you know, back in the day, and even with today's technology, they couldn't render out the fine hairs on the Kong's hands. Like, it's just not as thick as the fur on their arms and legs and stuff. But, you know, someday, Nintendo's technology will reach that level of fine monkey hand and foot hair rendering technology. Donkey Kong knew from his granddad's familiar complaining that he was not hurt. I'm okay, Donkey, said Diddy Kong. That a boy, replied Donkey Kong. Now let's see where we are. Donkey Kong pulled a homemade flare from his backpack. It was made from a coconut with a rope wick stuck in the top. Wow, he's really prepared. He's got it all. This light won't last long, but it will show us what this place looks like. Yeah, there's no squawks in this game, unfortunately. Donkey Kong lit the flare. The light revealed dank walls dripping with water and a high ceiling overhead. In front of them stretched a wooden walkway with a metal railing, leading deeper into the mountain. Actually, pretty appropriate music for this part. This must be one of the entrances to the caves and tunnels that lead through the mountain, exclaimed Donkey Kong. We're not trapped after all. We just need to find the right passageway to lead us to Big Ape City. We may actually have found a shortcut. Yeah, but what happens when the flare burns out? Asked Cranky Kong. Oh, Squawks is in this. Sorry. The last time we were in these caves, we made friends with Squawks the Parrot, explained Donkey Kong. He always carries a high-powered flashlight. He led us through the caves and tunnels once before. Maybe he can help again. Yeah, why did Squawks give up being the flashlight guy? You know, that was his thing. And, I guess he was tired of being known as the flashlight guy that everyone always calls on when they need a light, and he didn't want to have to be stuck in the caves. So he was like, I'm reinventing myself. I'm no longer the flashlight guy. In fact, when I have a flashlight in DK64, it's gonna fucking suck. It's gonna be the worst flashlight you've ever seen. Just so no one confuses me for being the flashlight guy ever again. I'm so over it. Yeah, I guess Squawks just he had a love of flashlights and, you know, just waiting for his time to be useful. Donkey Kong took a deep breath. Diddy and Cranky knew what was coming, so they put their fingers in their ears. Donkey Kong let out a tremendous yell, using all of his amazing lung power. His cry for help echoed throughout twisting, turning tunnels inside the mountain. Yeah, he's gonna cause another fucking avalanche if he does this. He actually didn't need Pauline and Bonanza if he can, like, let out a scream of this power. But, you know, he decided to let her be helpful anyway. As the powerful sound finally faded out, so did the flare, leaving the apes in the dark once again. Several tension-filled minutes passed. Then, in the distance, a light flickered. "Over here!" cried Donkey Kong. What was DK yelling? It doesn't say what he yelled out. Like, was he just yelling out Squawks' name? Or was he just like, ah! He's doing a big old, like, monkey yell. Yeah, he yelled out Banana Slamma, and Squawks was like, I know who that is. Squawk! Came the reply as the light moved closer. Squawks the Parrot appeared, carrying his flashlight. You know, it's funny, I was listening to a conversation about Donkey Kong Land, in prep for these episodes, and, someone called in, and it's a TJ, person in the Donkey Kong fandom, who's like the Squawks guy, like the biggest Squawks fan in the world, and was sad that, you know, that was like the one black mark against Donkey Kong Land, was it was a mark against Squawks' otherwise very good attendance record. Squawks is not in Donkey Kong Land. But has he ever read the book? I have to ask, you know. Thanks for coming, Squawks, said Donkey Kong. I'm glad you heard my call. Good old front-facing Squawks there with his very thin beak. Cranky does not want to look directly at front-facing Squawks. He doesn't like him. Are you kidding, Donkey Kong? That was too Cranky-like. I don't know how to do a Squawks voice. Hi, Dustin. Yeah, what's happened so far is that Funky Kong was shot out of the sky above Big Ape City, and they're trying to get there. And as you can see through the cave door there, they're almost there. Almost to the exciting part. Are you kidding, Donkey Kong? Asked Squawks. I'm sure that cry was heard clear through the other side of the mountain. Hi, Cranky Diddy. What brings you back into the caves? I don't know if this is a good Squawks voice either, but whatever. I'm trying to not just make it my Toad voice, because Andre called me out on that last time, but... The Kongs quickly explain their mission to find Funky. And remember, Squawks is just Babby in this. He's not fully grown yet. He's just a little Squawks. He can't carry Kongs. He can only carry his flashlight. The Kongs quickly explain their mission to find Funky. Squawks agreed to show them the quickest route through the mountain to bring them to Big Ape City. He led the way with his flashlight. After a long underground journey, Squawks finally brought the apes to the cave exit closest to Big Ape City. After thanking Squawks, he returned to the caves. Well, that was quick. Bye, Squawks. I don't have to do his voice anymore, as he had, like, 2 lines. Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky stepped outside. Before them rose the skyline of Big Ape City. I haven't been here since I was your age, Donkey, said Cranky Kong. Even then, it was decaying and dangerous. Still, it brings back memories. I remember battling a short plumber named Mario, and... Okay, so, this book... is coming down hard on the, yes, the arcade took place in Big Ape City, so, you know. I'm glad that Michael Teitelbaum was being so opinionated about the Donkey Kong lore back in the day. He was not afraid to express his headcanons. Pops, interrupted Donkey Kong. I hate to interrupt. We're here to find Funky, remember? We better get into the city. Yeah, they don't want to talk too much about Mario in this book. This isn't a Mario book, this is a Donkey Kong book. Alright, grumbled Cranky. The Kongs marched ahead and were soon in Big Ape City. They expected to find an empty, lifeless place. Instead, the city was bustling with activity. When Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky saw this, they gasped at the sight. Kremlings, whispered Donkey Kong, guiding the others behind a building so they would not be spotted. The entire city is filled with Kremlings. I would also gasp if I saw a city filled with Kremlings, but it would be much more positive. I don't think they are, Jero, and I also don't necessarily want to get into a Donkey Kong lore sidetrack right now, but I would say, you know, based on everything he says in Bonanza and all the imagery that's associated with him, that they don't want to retcon that. But also it's weird with the whole, like, Pauline timeline stuff, so I don't know. You know, maybe someday when we get back to Bonanza we can discuss all that, but as for now, we're still firmly entrenched in 1995 at this point. Alright, Chapter 4. Big Ape City was once the center of culture, entertainment, and business on Donkey Kong Island, but the city was abandoned many years ago. Now the Kremlings, who lost their factory thanks to the Kong's heroic efforts, yeah, their heroic efforts of fucking literally killing people, had taken over the abandoned city. Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky stood on a dirty street in the city, next to a warehouse, watching Kremlings scurry everywhere. That's what I do when I load up Bonanza. I just go down to the planet core and I just Kremling watch, you know? They're using the city as their new base of operations, said Donkey Kong. But why are they here? A large Kremling cart being pulled by a team of Kremlings rumbled down the street and stopped at the warehouse's loading dock. Oh boy, this is this chapter. We're getting there. The Kongs ducked into a doorway to remain out of view. Clump, there he is! First word on this page, because you gotta get straight to it. Alright, again, much like Squawks, he wasn't in the actual game, and the author of this book said this is an injustice that I need to correct. So, putting Clump in this book. I think Krusha is in this book too, but less than Clump is. The boy. Clump, one of King K. Rool's henchmen, jumped out of the cart and began barking orders. You know he jumped out and he had some major jiggle physics going on. I need this cart loaded and back to the factory within the hour, shouted Clump. King K. Rool wants the new factory completed by the end of the week. We're way behind schedule, so move it. The Kremlings ran out into the loading dock and frantically began loading equipment into the cart. Nearby, the Kongs were filled with dread by what they just heard. They're rebuilding their factory here in Big Ape City, whispered Donkey Kong. That must be why I saw smoke when I was up in Funky's plane, said Diddy. I think we need to get a better look at what we're dealing with here, said Donkey Kong. Follow me. Donkey Kong quickly tiptoed around the side of the warehouse, followed by Diddy and Cranky Kong. I hate these adventures, grumbled Cranky as he hurried to keep up. Cranky, you didn't have to come, okay? If you hate him so much, you really inserted yourself into this. Like, you aren't even in the game, like, at all. But you insisted on being in the book. That's on you. Scurrying. I had a Kremling OC when I was in middle school, and her name was Scurry, with a K, obviously. She was like a clinger, but like a yellow clinger. I was very original at the time. Donkey Kong led them on a climb of a far wall and onto the warehouse roof. From that point, high above the street, a horrible sight greeted them. A short distance away in the heart of the city, an enormous factory was being constructed. This factory was 10 times the size of the one the Kongs had destroyed. Yeah, blow this shit up, DK. Just try it. Although it was not yet completed, the factory's smokestacks are already pouring huge amounts of pollution into the air. They gotta get a jump start on that pollution. They're not even making anything here. They're just like, they just want to pour out some smoke just for fun. If they finish that thing, it'll release enough pollution to poison the entire island, said Donkey Kong. I say we go to that factory and blow it up like we did the other one, said Diddy, pounding his fist into his palm. Yes! Explosions! This is probably why I was talking about, like, a name for someone who was obsessed with explosions the other day. Or a few weeks ago, or whenever. It may not be that easy this time, said Donkey Kong, pointing at the factory. Look! The Kongs could see Kremling guards patrolling the entire outside of the factory. It looks like they beefed up security big time. Below on the warehouse loading dock, 2 Kremlings struggled with a heavy piece of equipment. What is this thing, anyway? One Kremling asked the other. It weighs a ton. I don't know, replied the other Kremling, but it sure looks nasty. The large metal box they carried was filled with wires, electrodes, and straps. Yo, Pokemon crossover. Clump overheard the 2 Kremlings. That, for your information, is King K. Rool's truth machine. That monkey pilot we shot down has still not revealed the true nature of his mission. He claims he was on his way to pick up a passenger, but this device will make him tell the truth once we set it up at the factory. Alright, so yes, they got a torture machine that they're about to hook up Funky Kong to. Yeah, I don't know, Donkey Kong is like the Jesus of exploding barrels. He can pretty much infinitely multiply them, you know, it's a miracle. On the warehouse roof, the Kongs froze in fear. They've got Funky in the factory, said Diddy. They think he's a spy. Donkey Kong scratched his head, trying to come up with a plan. They're gonna use that horrible machine on him, unless we can get him out of there. Alright, it's break time. I'm going to go refresh my water because, you know, all this reading takes it out of me, but... Oh no, Funky is going to be hooked up to the torture machine, so I will leave you on that cliffhanger, with this illustration here, and I will be back. You know, if they jump off of this, they are just going to die. That's what I learned from Donkey Kong Land. Even if there's a platform below them, they're not just going to take fall damage or whatever. It is going to just treat them as if there is nothing below them, and if it's high enough, they're just going to die. So I hope they don't do that. But we'll see. I'll be back in a few minutes. Told you I was feeling a little under the weather today. I've like got allergies or something. I've got the sniffles a little bit. But when I like when I take my little breaks, I'm like sniffly, but when I'm streaming I'm fine. I don't know. It's like I noticed the same thing back when I used to do theater. A lot of times people would be like feeling bad or they would be like sick or something, and I remember there was like one production I was in college where like the entire cast had a cold. And you might think, okay, well, if everyone's sick, they shouldn't be performing and they shouldn't be breathing out their germs all over like the like the audience and stuff. I don't know. The show must go on, and I think people were a little less cautious about that kind of thing like before COVID. I don't really know if it would be the same way now because I haven't done theater in a while. But you know, people would be like coughing and hacking and stuff behind, like, as soon as they got off stage. But then, like, once they got on stage, the adrenaline would carry them, and they would manage to not show any signs of illness once they were actually performing. It's kind of interesting that your body can sort of switch things on and off, even to that extent, subconsciously. I feel like if it was a musical, it would be substantially harder to, still go on if you were sick, but I've never been in a musical because I can't fucking sing at all. Alright. We're almost at the line, by the way. And how in the name of monkey madness are you gonna do that? Demanded Cranky. A sly smile came over Donkey Kong's face. Yeah, I might have said this the first time we read the book, but I'm literally just imagining, like, that meme face that people always use, the, like, feature-length one. The face he's making on the Donkey Kong Country Legend of the Crystal Coconut VHS, that face. So DK makes that face, and he says, "We'll get him out in that cart," he said, pointing to the loading dock below. Cranky realized what Donkey Kong meant to do. Hold on. Turn the music down a little bit. Okay. Krenna already told me she can't be here, and she was sad about it. She literally messaged me to say she wanted to be here for the novelization, but was out doing something else today, so she was sad. So she will not be materializing, unfortunately, but if she's watching this later, hello. We all wish you were here. Miss you. Cranky realized what Donkey Kong meant to do. Why, back in my day, we wouldn't be sneaking around, hiding in the back of carts, he snorted. We'd battle the bad guys right out in the open. But you young apes wouldn't know a real adventure if it jumped up and bit you on the nose. Donkey Kong waited until the cart was loaded. When Clump and the other Kremlings went around to the front of the cart, Donkey Kong made his move. So they are going to jump down, and this is the most unrealistic thing compared to the game, is they are not just going to, like, instantly get swallowed by the void when they jump down from the top of a building. They're actually going to be able to land effectively. Donkey Kong waited until the cart was loaded. When Clump and the other Kremlings went around to the front of the cart, Donkey Kong made his move. On 3, we jump, he said. Wait, what? Cried Cranky. Hold on to my back, Pop, said Donkey Kong. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he had to, like, carry Cranky, because if Cranky jumped down on his own, his knees would, like, shatter into a million pieces, I'm sure. With Cranky on his back, Donkey Kong jumped from the roof. He was followed by Diddy, using their best jungle skills. Alright. They landed as softly as they could on the back of the cart. I mean, honestly, if a bunch of gorillas, like, jumped down from, like, a 6-story building or whatever the fuck and landed on the back of the cart, I don't think there's any amount of, like, jungle skills that could make that not noticeable. I mean, like, I'm pretty sure the Kremlings are just really not paying attention, because that seems like it would shake things up quite a bit. Andre? Thank you. Anyway, they slipped under a canvas tarp that covered the equipment just as the cart rolled away, heading for the Kremlings' factory. Under the tarp, the Kongs could not have been more uncomfortable as the cart bounced along city streets filled with potholes. Something's sticking in my back, complained Cranky. Makes, you know, with the context, with the lore that this scene has built up over the past year, but especially between me and Andre, who keep joking about this, the line that something is sticking in Cranky's back. Anyway, this the Kremlings are up to some stuff on this cart. No, you'll find out soon enough. I know, Pop, said Donkey Kong. We're all uncomfortable, but if this works, we'll get inside the factory and be able to find Funky. The cart rolled on and came to the main entrance of the factory. The guard at the gate waved Clump through, and they entered the huge building. Alright, here's the line from this book. The cart came to rest in a cargo room, and the Kongs heard Clump and his driver get off. There it is. That's, from the sacred text. So they heard Clump and his driver getting off, and that's why things were so awkward. I need to get this line right here. It means so much to me. You know how some people have a Bible verse on their social media or whatever? I need to have, like, Donkey Kong Country Rumble in the Jungle, chapter 4, line whatever. The Kongs heard Clump and his driver get off. Call in the work crews and get the stuff unloaded now, ordered Clump. The driver nodded and then ran off. Clump walked around to the back of the cart. Beneath the tarp, the Kongs could hear him breathing and snorting. Right, he's also doing that. Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky sat holding their breaths, hoping they would not be discovered. Then Clump grunted and left the room. Next time you come up with a bright idea, leave it back in the jungle, said Cranky as the Kongs climbed from the cart. What now, Donkey? Said Diddy, stretching his legs. We've got to find a hiding place before the work crew shows up, explained Donkey Kong. Too late, said Diddy as the doors to the cargo room swung open and 20 Kremlings ran toward the car. Oh my god, things keep escalating. Like, you know, earlier it was like DK took on 5 at once, and now it's like 20. They're just pouring in. Dude, if you like rolled through all of those at once, you get going really fast. Down, said Donkey Kong. Under the cart. It's our only place to hide. Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky crawled under the cart. They remained still as the Kremlings unloaded the equipment. Yeah, they were unloading some... That's not the only thing they were unloading. Soon, all but 2 Kremlings had left. Okay, well, that situation resolved itself. Where does this thing go? Asked one of the Kremlings, pointing at the truth machine. Clump wants us to take us to the ape pilot's cell, replied the other. The 2 Kremlings left the cargo room, carrying the horrible device. The Kongs scrambled from beneath the cart. If we follow those guys, they'll lead us right to Funky, said Donkey Kong. Come on. Keeping a safe distance behind the 2 Kremlings, the Kongs followed them through the factory. Fortunately, the cell where Funky was being held was in a remote part of the factory, so the apes could easily stay out of sight. We're like halfway through the book, by the way. Hi, Nagi boy. When the Kremlings reached Funky's cell, the Kongs jumped into action. Diddy jumped high in the air and landed on a Kremling's head, sending the evil creature to his knees. Hey, shouted the other Kremling. Where'd you monkeys come from? I'm not telling, said Donkey Kong, but I can tell you where you're going. Right into that wall. Donkey Kong curled up into his unstoppable barrel roll. He rolled into the second Kremling, sending him bouncing off the ceiling. Then two walls... This Kremling made of fucking rubber? Is he like pinball? Like, why is he so bouncy? And finally to the floor, where he passed out. You've heard of rock crocs. Get ready for rubber crocs. Diddy came down for a second jump on his Kremling's head, and the big green creep joined his buddy in slumberland. Oh, they're just sleeping. Funky ran to his cell door. Man, am I glad to see you, dude, said the laid-back pilot. How'd you get into this uncoolest of places? Can you imagine if Funky Kong ever actually did have to get hooked up to the torture machine? Luckily, they stopped it just in time, but that could have been, like, the backstory for the way he is in DK64. Like, that kind of thing changes a person, I guess. I wouldn't endorse it, but I could understand him becoming, like, a military psycho after getting hooked up to a torture machine, I guess. Careener, that's good. Recoil is already a Kremling, yes. That's a bouncy tail one from DKC3. Donkey Kong quickly told Funky Kong of their journey. Cranky added the part about the uncomfortable ride in the Kremling's cart. Yeah, you can't leave that part out. It's like the most important part of the book. But enough talk for now, said Donkey Kong. It's time for action. He pulled a mini TNT barrel from his pack. Diddy, Pop, skip back. Funky, move away from that door. Donkey Kong tossed the barrel at the cell door. It exploded, tearing the locked door off its hinges. You know, if I ever read any of these books for a third time, I should go like a full radio play with it. I could recruit other people to do voice acting, and I would just be the narrator, and I would also like play the sound effects at the appropriate time. The big ol' explosion noise right here. Thanks, big dude, said Funky as he joined the others and gave Donkey Kong a high five. If you two were through congratulating yourselves, I have a suggestion to make, said Cranky. Let's run. That little firecracker you just set off is bound to attract some attention. As the four apes ran back down the metal corridor, Funky filled in the others on what had happened to him. First I was attacked by a squadron of flying pigs, began Funky. I thought that's what you said over the walkie-talkie, said Diddy. Those pigs must be the Crim Dude's newest experiment, continued Funky Kong. I do like the implication that the hogwashes are like a science experiment or something. Baron Kirwellenstein just like grafting some wings onto pigs. Andre, who would you like to be? Do you want to be Funky Kong? Who do you think? Then cannonballs came out of nowhere and hit my plane. I crash landed right next to the factory. As the Kremlings took me prisoner, I overheard that it was some kind of automatic defense system they've set up that shot me down. They had nothing against me personally. After all, who could? They just hate all Kongs, so they threw me in that cage. Were you hurt, Funky? Asked Diddy. I'm fine, replied Funky, but my barrel plane got pretty messed up. I think I can fix it, but I didn't have time to check out the damage. I heard him say that they hauled my plane to cargo room 7. I've got to get there and see what kinds of repairs the old heap needs. The Kongs rounded a corner and came face to face with a squadron of Kremlings led by another of their leaders, Critter. It's the Critter. He's back. Remember the Critter from the first book? He's just like a critter who's like extra cool. He's like the top critter among critters. I'm afraid you won't be seeing anything except the inside of your cell again, snarled Critter. And this time you'll have company. 6, 7. I think the pointing guy is actually supposed to be Rock Croc. Although it's kind of hard to tell, especially without the eyes being able to glow on the black and white illustration. We're outnumbered, thought Donkey Kong. We have to distract them. He dropped down, opened his palm, and slapped the hard steel floor. That sounds like it would hurt. The Kremlings lost their balance and toppled over one another. Whoa! Time for some masterful monkey maneuvers, shouted Donkey Kong. While the guards were still off balance, Donkey Kong jumped from Kremling head to Kremling head, knocking out the startled lizards. Diddy joined in, cartwheeling into 3 Kremlings at once. Diddy's way is much faster. That's the speedrunning way. You gotta cartwheel through, build up your speed. Your jumping one-on-one is much slower. Donkey Kong pulled a bunch of barrels from his pack and handed a few to Diddy and Funky. Although Funky Kong was usually too laid back to fight, Yeah, this is back when Funky was a pacifist, before DK64. He got into the spirit of things and hurled the barrels, smashing Kremling after Kremling. Okay, I guess these weren't necessarily TNT barrels, so he wasn't exploding them. Diddy climbed up the wall and hung from the ceiling, dropping barrels from above. "Bombs away!" he shouted as his barrels bashed more Kremlings. The tide of battle had turned towards the Kongs when suddenly Critter and another Kremling grabbed Cranky. "Stop your assault or the old ape gets it!" shouted Critter. "Who you calling an old ape, you big green toad?" yelled Cranky. Okay, it's way off with the animals. As he elbowed Critter in the stomach and bopped the other Kremling on the head with his cane. "Why, I was stomping on the likes of you when you were knee-high to a salamander." I went off on a whole, like, salamander tangent the first time we read this. I think I don't need to do that again. Also, I think this is as far as we got when we were reading this on my April's Fool's stream, and we had to come back and do the rest of it later. So I think we got up to chapter 6. So, you know, if you've watched that stream, this is as far as you know, like, you don't know what happens beyond this point. Yeah, I definitely brought up Salamander Spring. Look, I love salamanders, but, you know, Kremlings are not salamanders. Not even the same, like, kingdom of animals, really. Donkey Kong smiled. "We've still got it, Pops." I don't think kingdom is the right word. Like, because kingdom is, like, the kingdom of animals and, like, the kingdom of plants. I always forget, like, how the like, classification of animals goes, but there's, like, reptiles and amphibians. What are those two different things called? And then, like, mammals, you know. Anyway, Donkey Kong smiled. "You still got it, Pops," he said as he tucked into a barrel roll and took out the remaining Kremlings. "Nice going, dude," said Funky when the battle was over. The Kongs raced through the factory, keeping out of sight. When they arrived at the cargo room holding Funky's barrel plane, they saw 2 Kremlings guarding the door. Donkey Kong pulled 2 barrels from his backpack and handed one to Diddy. "I'll take the one on the left," said Donkey Kong. "Ready when you are," said Diddy. From their position down the hall, the Kongs tossed their barrels at the guards. The barrels struck and the Kremlings fell to either side of the door. These Kremlings just get defeated by, like, everything. Like, they don't ever get back up either. They just give up way too easily. "Time for a little brute strength," said Donkey Kong. He put his shoulder down, then charged into the door, bashing it off his hinges. Yo, using like a Wario move here. In the cargo room, Funky Kong ran to his damaged plane. After a quick inspection, he rejoined the others, who were standing guard at the broken door. "There are a few things I can fix," said Funky, "but I'm gonna need a new water pump." "Where are we gonna get that?" asked Donkey Kong. "Right here in the factory," replied Funky. "Before they locked me up, the Kremlings dragged me all over the factory, from one leader to another, trying to figure out what to do with me. I saw quite a bit of the place. I also saw where they keep their supplies. You remember the part of Donkey Kong Land where the Kongs had to go looking for, a fetch quest, looking for a water pump? Classes, that sounds right. I knew all this stuff when I was younger, you know. Speaking of classes, when I was in biology classes in, like, high school and middle school and stuff, but... "The problem is," said Funky, "that even if I can fly us out of here, we'll be shot down by the automatic defense system again." "I'll take care of that," said Donkey Kong. "Did you see where the defense system was?" Funky nodded, then reached into his plane to pull out some paper and a pencil. He drew 2 maps. One map shows where the supply room is. The other shows how to get to the defense system control room. "We have to split up," said Donkey Kong, taking the maps from Funky and handing one to Diddy. "You up to it, Diddy?" "You bet," said Diddy proudly. Yeah, Funky was, like, using the notes section in the back of the game manual. He was one of the few people who was actually using it. He's like, let me make a map of this game. Okay, I feel a little less bad that not everybody knew the answer to my animal question, like, right off the bat, as if I was some kind of dingus, so... It seems like fairly basic information, but, you know, over the years you forget stuff like that if you're not reviewing it. And if there's one thing I hate, it's saying the wrong thing and pretending I know things that I'm not sure about. Donkey Kong turned to Cranky. "Pops, I need you to stay here and help Funky in any way you can," he said. "Fine with me," grumbled Cranky. "The last thing I want to do is run around this Kremling hotel." Yeah, that's the first thing I want to do, actually. That's... Can I check in? "Good," said Donkey Kong, reaching into his pack and pulling out a few barrels. I'm imagining, like, Hotel Mario, but with Kremlings. Like, DK and Diddy doing the meme walk-up at the beginning of the game. And, like, K. Rool doing the little Bowser thing where he's like, Diddy, take some of these with you just in case. Grab the water pump and meet back here. Good luck, little buddy. Let's get moving. This is not Rescue on Crocodile Isle. This is Rumble in the Jungle, the Donkey Kong Land, the second book. We will be reading Rescue on Crocodile Isle in a few weeks. After I actually play Donkey Kong Country 2. As Donkey Kong and Diddy left the cargo room, Funky pulled out his toolbox and got to work doing the repairs he could manage without the new parts. Cranky Kong handed Funky the tools he needed, and told story after story of his youth. Oh god. Funky nodded a lot as he worked on the plane. Poor Funky. Donkey Kong headed toward the control room for the automatic defense system. According to the map, thought Donkey Kong, it's 8 flights up. I can't just stroll into the elevator or stairway without getting caught, so I've got to find another way to get up there. Just then Donkey Kong heard a group of Kremlings heading in his direction. He looked around. There appeared to be nowhere to hide. Then he spotted an air vent in the wall. Yeah, he's Amogus. He pulled the metal grating off the vent, climbed up into it, and pulled the grating back on from the inside. What did I tell you? It's Die Hard. Unfortunately for Donkey Kong, the Kremlings who arrived were a work crew assigned to repair the vent he had just entered. Oh, that's unfortunate. I'll pull the grating off. You get out the tool, said one of the Kremlings. Donkey Kong turned and crawled as fast as he could, moving away from the grating, going deeper into the air shaft. He kept crawling until he came to a point where the shaft split left and right. The rights... Man, they're like labeling the shafts internally. That's pretty convenient. The right side was labeled Air Shaft 162. The left side, Elevator Shaft 25. I bet they can send, like, claptraps in here to, like, fast travel through the factory, I guess. I'm in luck, thought Donkey Kong. If I can reach the elevator shaft, I can just climb right up the cables until I reach the floor I need. It'll be just like climbing vines back in the jungle. Donkey Kong crawled along the shaft leading left until he came to another opening covered by a grating. Popping the grating off, he peered into the elevator shaft. Looking down, he saw the top of the elevator car several stories below. Looking up, he saw the shaft leading to the top story of the factory, some 20 floors above him. Holy shit! When they said this factory was, like, so much bigger, I was anticipating that it just, like, took up more, you know, ground level space. Not that it was, like, 20 floors high. Like, this is... What kind of factory is this? Like, I could see an office building being that big. But, like, what are you even making in, like, a 20-story high fact? It's the production room from Frantic Factory, I guess. That's pretty dang tall. Yeah, this is actually, it's just Grunty Industries. You gotta, like, climb up the elevator cable. Straight ahead hung the steel cables that pulled the elevator. Donkey Kong made the short leap from the air shaft to the cables and began the climb to the 8th floor. He was halfway to his destination when he heard a noise that sent a shock of fear through his body. It was a low, electric hum. He looked down and saw the top of the elevator car rushing up toward him. Donkey Kong's heart was pounding furiously. He pulled himself up the metal cables, hand over hand, as fast as his arms would move. It's catching up, he thought, glancing down at the elevator. Don't look down, just climb. Don't look down, just climb, he repeated to himself over and over. When the top of the car, with the top of the car only inches from his feet, Donkey Kong reached the 8th floor. Gotta time this just right, he thought. He kicked out with his powerful legs and smashed open the door to the 8th floor. The force of the kick carried his body through the door. The elevator car zipped by, just barely missing him. Whew, that was intense. Donkey Kong landed in a heap on the floor. He was breathing hard from the effort, but he had made it. He was on the 8th floor, facing the door leading to the automatic defense system. He stood up and was immediately grabbed from behind. Crusher like, grabbed his ass. Crusher grabbed his cheeks. Next time, just take the elevator like everyone else. It was Crusher, the biggest and strongest of all the Kremlings. It's the end of the line for you, Kong, said the muscle-bound Kremling. I'm taking you to King K. Rool. Although Krusher may have been the strongest Kremling, fortunately for Donkey Kong, he was not one of the brightest. Listen, Krusher, how'd you like to really impress Rool? Said Donkey Kong. How could I do that? Asked Krusher, growing curious, though he still kept his tight bear hug around Donkey Kong's ass cheeks. In my backpack, written on a piece of paper, are the locations of all the Kongs on Donkey Kong Island, said Donkey Kong. Wouldn't you like to know where all the Kongs are, so you can kidnap them and make your boss happy? I sure would, said Crusher excitedly. And then he'll say, K. Rool will say, way to go, youth, again. Then let go of my arms, and I'll get you the info, said Donkey Kong. Oh, Crusher, you idiot, why didn't you just reach in there and get it yourself? Crusher loosened his hold. You know where all the Kongs are? Asked Donkey Kong, reaching into his pack. Where? Asked Crusher. In the jungle, where else? Cried Donkey Kong, who pulled a barrel out of his backpack and tossed it at Crusher. The barrel caused Crush to stumble, but that was all Donkey Kong needed. He barrel rolled the brute off his feet, then double jumped him until the Kremling was out cold. Holy shit, he just, like, repeatedly stomped him. Poor guy. The barrel caused... Oh, I read that already. Good thing these Kremlings are dumber than tree stumps, thought Donkey Kong as he kicked open the door to the defense control room. He tossed the TNT barrel into the room. You won't be shooting Funky down again anytime soon, he said as the barrel exploded, destroying the system. Donkey Kong reached the elevator shaft. I don't like going back in here, he thought, but down has got to be easier than up. He checked the floor indicator at the elevator door. The car was on the 20th floor at the very top of the factory. I should make it down 8 floors before the car comes my way, he thought. Then he jumped back down on the cables and slid down the air vent, crawling back inside. Donkey Kong soon reached the other end of the vent. The work crews were gone, and so he slipped back out and hurried to the plane. During all this time, Diddy was on a mission of his own. He had to get the water pump for Funky's engine. The supply room Diddy needed was located at the end of a series of catwalks, extending upward, level after level. The room I need is just off the 4th catwalk, he thought. But if I just stroll right onto it, I'm sure to be caught. Diddy stood at the beginning of the 4th catwalk and looked up. What if I crawled along the bottom of the 5th catwalk, just above the one I need? As long as no one looks up from the 4th or down from the 5th, I'll be alright. Diddy's a genius. Diddy leapt and caught hold of the bottom of the 5th crosswalk. The tiny holes in the metal plates were just big enough for his small fingers and toes to grip. He slowly made his way toward the supply room, pausing whenever a Kremling walked by above or below him. Diddy's on a stealth mission. When he reached the room, he waited until it was clear, and then dropped down to the catwalk. Diddy tried the supply room door. It opened easily. This is lucky, he thought. Someone left it unlocked. Diddy opened the door and slipped into the room. There, doing an inventory of supplies, was Claptrap, a 4-legged Kremling with huge jaws and long, razor-sharp teeth. Oh my god, this Claptrap's here to get revenge for his dead brother. He growled at Diddy, who immediately jumped right at the Kremling. And another thing that Michael Teitelbaum predicted was Claptrap's being kind of dog-like. He's growling. But Claptrap was quick. He stepped out of the way of the attack, just in time for Diddy to crash into a storage shelf. Boxes tumbled down on top of Diddy, who looked up to see Claptrap charging at him, his massive jaws opened wide. Diddy pulled out the barrel that Donkey Kong had given him. Claptrap lunged right at Diddy, who stuck the barrel into the Kremling's mouth. Okay, now they're putting it right in their mouths. Makes sense in this case. Claptrap's got a big old mouth. And then rolled out of the way. Oh yeah, as dogs are known to do. This Claptrap's so cute though, look at him. And he's big. Claptrap snarled frantically. The barrel was lodged between his jaws, wedging them open. He couldn't close his mouth. As Claptrap struggled with the barrel, Diddy grabbed a water pump and left, locking the door behind him. Okay, this Claptrap doesn't talk, so maybe it is the one from the prior factory, and he survived, but he was, like, so traumatized or injured that he lost his ability to speak. And he basically reverted to being animalistic. Diddy's return trip along the bottom of the catwalk was uneventful, and the 3 Kongs were soon back at the barrel plane. Nice work, dude, said Funky. I'll have this baby back together in no time. As Funky repaired his engine, Donkey Kong, Diddy, and Cranky stood watch at the door. Soon the plane was ready to fly. Funky Airlines, flight number 1 is leaving, announced Funky. Right now, hop in, dudes. I hate flying, said Cranky as he climbed on board. Cranky, yes, you've said that like 50 times. Yippee, shouted Diddy, following Cranky in. Another plane ride. As Donkey Kong stepped into the plane, a squadron of Kremlings led by Rock Croc arrived at the door. So this is where you've been hiding! Attack! He shouted. There it is! We made it to the picture. Oh, man. This book seems like so much longer than the first one. I don't know what it is. Probably just because they've just like been in this factory for so long. So I think this is supposed to be Rock Croc, even though it's like kind of hard to tell. But he doesn't, you can't really see him having any like shoulder pads. But whoever it is, they're our hero. The funniest guy in this book. Donkey Kong leaped into the cockpit next to Funky, who already had the engines racing. He pulled out a TNT barrel and flung it against the far wall of the room. The barrel exploded, ripping a big hole in the wall. You're cleared for takeoff, Captain, said Donkey Kong as Funky engaged the throttle and the plane rolled forward. Rock Croc and the others reached the plane just as it began to move, but they were too late. The barrel plane taxied out of the cargo room and took to the air. What now? Asked Funky Kong. Back home? No, said Donkey Kong. Make one more pass over the factory. With the automatic defense system down, we should be safe. I want to drop all my remaining TNT barrels onto the factory. It may not be enough to take out the whole thing, but at least it'll set them back a bit in their construction schedule. So yeah, this is where Funky got it from at the end of Donkey Kong Country 2 GBA, which we will get to months from now. As Funky swung the plane around, a strange sight appeared in the sky. The Kremling's army of evil flying pigs was taking to the air. Finally, they actually showed up. The pink pigs flapped their gray wings and headed right for the barrel plane. "What do we do now?" asked Diddy. "I've got an idea," replied Funky as the pigs drew closer. "I didn't have the time or the help to do this the first time I met those flying swine." "Donkey, Diddy, get to the back of the plane. Pull out the big barrels. Banana shakes are my favorite snack. I always keep a few barrels of the stuff on board in case I get hungry." Okay. I love this, but also I thought that was like a total non sequitur at first. Like, he just decided he was hungry, so he just started talking about his favorite snack, banana shakes. "What in monkey madness are you planning to do?" cried Cranky Kong. "Have a picnic with these pigs?" "Nope," replied Funky. "I'm gonna shake 'em up. Should I say, shake 'em down?" Funky pulled the plane higher into the sky. When he was directly over the pigs, he opened one of the plane's doors. Donkey Kong and Diddy poured gallons and gallons of banana shakes out the doors. No, not the banana shakes. That sounds... Honestly, I freaking love banana milkshakes too, and the thought of them all going to waste making me very sad. Although, I don't know if just, like, keeping banana shakes in the back of the plane is a great idea. Like, I hope it's, like, refrigerated. Perfect music for this moment, you know? Where did you get this, like, scary hogwash? I will try to remember to edit this in on the video for a moment. Hogwash jump scare. The thick, sticky liquid. Okay. We're going back to the cart chapter now. Covered the pig's wings. One by one, they lost control of their ability to fly, and each pig was forced to glide down to the ground. Maybe this is the stuff that Ringo Kong was using to stick his drawings to the wall. Remember that? The mysterious white, sticky substance. It's just banana shakes. "Nicely done, dude," said Funky. "Now let's hit this joint." Yeah. Funky, you can't just talk about hitting the joint in a children's book. I know some people actually died in the previous one, but drug references, a little too far. And motor on out of here. I don't think Funky should be hitting the joint while he's flying anyway. But he swung the plane around for a final TNT barrel bombing run. "Alright, here we go. It's the Kremdenberg. It's coming." Suddenly something huge and terrifying rose from behind the factory. It was a Zeppelin, a flying airship filled with lighter-than-air gas. This was the command ship of King K. Rool. The cruel image of Rool was painted on the Zeppelin's side. The massive airship fired deadly rockets at the tiny barrel plane. Only Funky's incredible skill as a pilot enabled him to dodge the speeding rockets, which detonated all around him. I wish this game had ended with like a shmup section. "Take the plane up, Funky," said Donkey Kong. "I have an idea." There he is. It is really just a big old picture of him. Funky flew straight up and over the Zeppelin. Donkey Kong stood up. The wind blew back his fur. "You with me on this one, little buddy?" he asked Diddy. Diddy Kong was nervous. The sight of the giant Zeppelin frightened him. How can it be frightening when it has like this music? Because it's so good. It's so jolly. He stood up next to Donkey Kong. "I'm with you," he said. "Let's go." When Funky pulled directly over the Zeppelin, Donkey Kong and Diddy leaped from the plane onto the Zeppelin's huge bag. "Hold on, Diddy," shouted Donkey Kong. "Grab the bag tightly and follow me." Donkey Kong led the way, climbing down the side of the giant bag. Stop talking about the giant bag! Followed closely by Diddy. Even for the Kongs, this was a very difficult climb. When they reached the cabin, Donkey Kong kicked open the door and the Kongs slipped inside. Funky circled overhead, out of the view of the Kremlings and their rockets. Once inside, Donkey Kong and Diddy swung into action. They took out the Kremling guards with double jumps. There's the double jumps. Cartwheel attacks and barrels left and right. As they ran through the airship, they planted time-delayed TNT barrels everywhere. At the far end of the cabin, Donkey Kong kicked open a locked door and came face-to-face with King K. Rool. I think, you know, this author just wanted Donkey Kong to have some kind of, like, Bomberman crossover at this point. Yeah, it does look like he just has, like, sad eyelids. Like, man, I don't even want to... I'm small right now. I don't even want to be here. They have to see me when I'm all little. At the far end of the cabin, Donkey Kong kicked open a locked door and came face to face with King K. Rool, who was little. The ship is going down in a matter of minutes, Rule, said Donkey Kong. That's a shame, Kong, replied the Kremling leader. But I won't be aboard when that happens. The powerful Kremling pushed past Donkey Kong and Diddy and ran from the room. So, spoiler alert, none of these books actually end with him fighting K. Rool. He always just, like, runs away. Like, the, author didn't really know what the final battles were going to be like, I think. I don't think he had that information to go on, maybe. Or maybe he played the game but couldn't get to the end or something. I don't know. Because he never writes a battle with K. Rool. He's always just, like, running off and escaping. Let the coward go, said Donkey Kong. He's just a big windbag like his ship. Donkey Kong pulled out the walkie-talkie. I think that was, like, literally K. Rool's only line. He just, he's like, that's a shame. Bye! And he runs off. All set, Funky, he said to the transmitter. See you below. Donkey Kong and Diddy ran back to the door and leaped from the Zeppelin. Funky flew by below, and the two apes landed in the plane, right on top of Cranky. Ah! Why don't you watch where you're falling? Yelled Cranky. Sorry about that, Pops, apologized Donkey Kong. Okay, Funky, let's fly. That thing's gonna blow any second. Funky Kong turned back toward home. The Kong saw King K. Rool's escape pod blast off from the Zeppelin just as the TNT barrels exploded, and the entire airship burst into flames. Okay, once again, they apparently knocked off a bunch of Kremlings, or they knocked them out in the cabin. We only know that K. Rool escaped, so once again, I think a bunch of these guys just, they're dead. Once again, the Kong's killing more people here, and there's always got to be some kind of fiery explosion in these books. Oh, the Kremanity. Look where it's going down, shouted Diddy, pointing out the window. The fiery Zeppelin plunged through the air, landing right on top of the Kremling's factory. The factory went up in a powerful explosion, putting an end to the Kremling's evil plans. Alright, so yeah, they blew up the Zeppelin and also everyone in the, like, 20-story tall factory. I hope Clump and Crusha made it out of there. I think they're fine. We got him, cried Diddy. You were great, little buddy, replied Donkey Kong. Hey, I just realized something, said Funky. I've got to get you dudes home in a hurry. What's the rush, asked Donkey Kong. I still got a passenger waiting for me on the other side of the island, exclaimed Funky. Yeah, I bet that guy just gave up. I mean, it's been like hours at this point. Or a day or something. The Kongs all laughed as Funky Kong increased his speed and headed for their jungle home. The end. Like, you see the Kremdenberg frickin' going down back there. Oh man, what a book. Boy. This book took longer to read than I was expecting. I thought it was gonna be like an hour. I don't know. This one's got so much action in it, you know? You gotta stop and pause and, like, think about it. Picture it in your mind. Yeah, and Funky's like, dude, I couldn't help it. I was, like, shot down. I had to fight some flying pigs. We just caused 2 massive explosions. You know, the person who is waiting on their ride probably could hear those explosions across the entire island, so that at least gives them an alibi, you know? It backs up the story a little bit. Yeah, what a tale this was. Like I said in my Discord, of all the novelizations, this one is objectively the most insane and just, like, with the most made-up shit that has nothing to do with the game. We didn't read the back of the book first. We should have done this. You know, this book was only $350 back in the day, or $4.95 if you're Canadian. Donkey Kong, the world's coolest gorilla, is back, but something weird is going on in Big Ape City, an abandoned jungle town that's suddenly crawling with evil Kremlings. Now the Kremlings have captured one of Donkey Kong's best friends. Can Donkey Kong save his friend in time? Well, there you go. What a story. If you want to read this book for yourself, you can go to the Internet Archive. Donkey Kong Country Rumble in the Jungle. Hey, they got the mole. I don't think there was a zinger in this book either. They got Crusha, okay, and they got the hogwashes, good for them, but they got the mole, hard hat, and they got a zinger on this cover, but they were not in the book. So the book was very much false advertising, and I would like my $350 back. Diddy's hands. Oh god. Diddy, he needs to put on some lotion or something. Diddy looks like he's been swimming for a long time and his hands are shriveling up. You know, I don't think there was a single tire in this book either. This book is a very bad representation of the gameplay of the game. No tires, no, like, moving cloud platforms. But anyway, that's quite enough of that. I'm going to get the other stuff that we're looking at today ready. You know, I just don't have as strong as a reaction to a lot of the bizarre stuff in this book this time because I've already read it and I already knew about it, but it's still nice to revisit it, I guess. You know, gotta reread the classics at least once a year to keep the poetry of the language fresh in your mind. Alright, I sent Victor these links yesterday so I would easily have them in hand. Yeah, let's look at this first. Oh, spoiler alert, I was looking at that, because that's the most interesting part. Okay, I think this is already set up well. I don't have to, like, resize it or anything. Maybe stretch it out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Perfect, it, like, takes up the whole screen now. Alright. So what we're looking at here is... Give me just a moment, real quick. I'm going to turn the music back to the DKC music. Okay. So what we're looking at here is a booklet, and I forgot to confirm in advance, like, was this sent out in the mail, like, to Nintendo Power owners, similarly to how they sent people the DKC Exposed VHS in the mail? Or was this just, like, inside of a Nintendo Power, just, like, stuck in there? Or was it something that you would just find, like, on a shelf at the same place you would find Nintendo Power, like a game store or a magazine rack? Because it says at the top, it says, free 24-page booklet. So I'm guessing that it was just kind of, like, put out there, alongside places that you might buy Nintendo Powers. And if you're a Nintendo Power subscriber, I don't know if they just, like, sent you this as well. But it is nice. They made, like, an entire little, like, free booklet about, Donkey Kong Land. So when I looked for Donkey Kong Land strategy guide, this is what I found. I actually couldn't find, like, an actual strategy, like a big strategy guide, as you might think of one. I'm not sure if one really existed, but I guess this is maybe the closest. I mean, maybe there are some unofficial ones, but as far as, like, official Nintendo Power strategy guides, I think this is what we got. This is, like, you know, it's essentially a strategy guide with some other stuff. So I think this is the... Unless there's some other strategy guide out there that you know about, please let me know, because we should look at that one too. But I'm pretty sure this is, like, as far as official materials go, the best we're gonna do. But it's actually a little more interesting than your typical strategy guide, because it has some, like, I don't know, other stuff in it. But it's a little too early to take a break now. I really kind of gotta go to the bathroom, but I'll try to make it 15 minutes or so. Alright, so the rest of the book is not sideways like this. This is just the cover, but, first of all, okay, I haven't looked at this, in detail yet. Like, I literally barely looked at it at all. And I just want to say, it says it's better than Donkey Kong Country, and I don't know a person in the world... Actually, no. When I was playing Donkey Kong Land, someone did come into my stream and say, like, this was my favorite Donkey Kong game before Bonanza came out. And presuming they were also, like, weighing it against the more commonly popular ones. So there is one person in the world who thinks that. But otherwise, even among this game's most ardent fans, I don't know anyone who would say that this game is better than Donkey Kong Country. Sorry, Donkey Kong Land, you're a nice game, I like you. But I don't know... They're just trying to pass it off as better than Donkey Kong Country. I don't know about that one. It does have some interesting creative stuff in it, that's for sure, but... So they're kind of, like, overselling it maybe right off the bat, but... It's better than Donkey Kong Country if you like tires, and if you hate Clump. If you don't want to see nipples in your Nintendo family-friendly video game, then this is obviously better for you. But not that you'd be able to see his nipples on, like, a Game Boy-sized screen anyway. But, yeah, if you like K. Rool being little, because he's so cute, then I guess it's better. But, yeah, let's take a look. This is a world exclusive. And we also have a little preview of Donkey Kong Country 2 in this as well. Diddy's Conquest, it's fananatastic. That's what the next DK game is going to be called. They had Bonanza, and they have to call the next one Fananatastic. Donkey Kong Fananatastic. You can win Play It Loud Game Boys and copies of Donkey Kong Land. Damn, that's pretty good. Alright. Nintendo Magazine System is proud to present the world's first review of Donkey Kong Land. Not only that, but inside this book... Yeah, I'm pretty sure this must have come out before the game was even out, or like slightly before. And you'll see why. It's got some stuff that didn't actually make it into the game. So this must have come out like right before, or maybe concurrently with the game, perhaps. Yeah, so all of the people who think Donkey Kong Land is better than Donkey Kong Country, this is the book for you. Not only that, but inside this book, presented completely free with Nintendo Magazine System, there's also a first look at the sequel to the best-selling video game in history, Donkey Kong Country 2: Diddy's Conquest. Plus, we have an exciting competition to win one of Nintendo's latest range of Play It Loud Game Boys, along with a copy of Donkey Kong Land, so you can celebrate the arrival of the new game in style. Donkey Kong Land is the most technologically advanced video game ever produced for Nintendo's Game Boy. I mean, I guess that was probably true, yes. Using the same advanced computer modeling techniques as Donkey Kong Country Land is another triumph for programmers Rare Limited, featuring all new worlds to explore, enemies to battle, and secrets to discover. All those fananatastic elements that have contributed to making Donkey Kong Country such a phenomenal success once again work their magic in a 4-meg portable pack of wonder! Donkey Kong Land is so special, it's even being issued as banana yellow game packs. We know you can't wait to read more about it. Why don't you just go ahead and do so? Diddy's like, yeah, what the fuck are you waiting for? Yeah, Claptrap is like, exclusive! This game only costs €29.99. That seems pretty reasonable. It was released, actually, I guess this is like a British thing, I guess. It was released in June in America, but they had to wait until August to get it in Donkey Kong's home country of Britain. Game type, platform, alright. Head-to-head? No. Battery backup, 3 positions. That's an interesting way to say save files. Continues. Infinite! Options, none. There are no options in this game. You're gonna play the game the way they intended you to play it, and you're gonna fucking like it. If you played it on the Super Game Boy, though, you can change the palettes and the border and stuff, so if you played on the Super Game Boy, you do have options, so they should have said something about that, you know? Anyway, we know all this stuff, and we also have an exclusive first look. I think that's just the Wario seal of having a first look. I don't think Wario is in this at all. I don't think it's a first look at a Wario game. I think Wario is just like the first look mascot, I guess. You know, Wario, as we know, almost made it into the Donkey Kongs series, but not quite. Alright, Jungle Boogie Remix. Fresh from their defeat of K. Rool back on Donkey Kong Island, Donkey and Diddy Kong are feeling pretty good. Perhaps their excitement has more to do with the excess of too much banana milkshake. Whoa, why are they... Okay. What's with all the banana milkshakes and, like, the extra materials for this game? I guess that's what everybody was drinking to inspire them. Like, you know... See, normally when I do one of these streams, I try to have, like, one of those juices, but I haven't had time to go to the store recently, so I don't have any right now. It's the same thing. They were all drinking the banana juice to, like, hype them up for writing and reviewing Donkey Kong. Yeah, coconut cream pies and banana shakes. They're ready to go for more action all the same. And boy, have they ever got it. Leaving the rest of the family behind to clear up the mess, the lads have bundled companions Espresso and Rambi into crates and gone in search of... Wait, this makes... Okay, so, like, DK and Diddy are the ones that shoved the animal friends into crates? Like, you'd always think, like, the Kremlings did that, like, they shoved the Kongs into barrels, but no, they themselves shoved the animal buddies in. I guess they made sure that they had plenty of food in there, hopefully. And maybe it keeps them safe, you know? Keeps them safe. It's like a snake hiding under a box. The Kremlings will never know they're in there. It's just like, oh, this is just a box. Also, hi, Davey. How's it going? So, Espresso and Rambi shoved in the crates, and they've gone in search of K. Rool's Kremling hideaway, located somewhere at the back of Beyond. The back of Beyond what? Okay. It's out there somewhere. It's in like a... It's further away than you could possibly imagine. I guess Rambi... Yeah, maybe he is in there on purpose, because otherwise, yeah, you'd think he could just break out. So maybe he is just hiding in there, waiting for the Kongs to come along. The Kremlings did not put him in there because he would be able to free himself too easily. In order for players to help Donkey and Diddy make it through the stormy adventures ahead, perhaps a quick rain check is in order. In other words, let's take time out to remind ourselves of all the DK Duo's super cool tricks and see what else they've learned. Donkey Kong versus Diddy Kong. Of course, the heroes aren't about to fight each other, but players may find themselves arguing over who is the best out of the two. It's Diddy. It's Diddy. This all depends. No, it's Diddy. Whereas Diddy is faster on his feet and more agile, DK is slower but more powerful. For Crusher might laugh in Diddy's face, this muscle-bound Kremling always steps aside for Donkey Kong. I like, Crusher sees DK coming, and he's just like, I ain't messing with that shit, and he just is like, you go on ahead, DK. Very, very polite. Then again, Diddy's reduced frame enables him to dodge enemies better. Decisions. I like how the layout of this, they kind of, like, overlapped the box here, like the blue box over the text, because, like, the D's and the first letters here are kind of slightly being overlapped. Graphic design is my passion. More monkey business. The action in Donkey Kong Land is more concentrated than before. Yeah, because it's smaller. K. Rool is also more concentrated in this game. He's the same weight, he's just denser, you know? They just densed him down a little bit. Meaning that DK and Diddy have to adopt a no-frills approach to their chosen mission. Every trick they learned on Donkey Kong Island becomes standard practice here. Precision and timing is essential. Rolling. Diddy cartwheels, DK tumbles head over heels. This is a great way to save time while knocking out most Kremlings. Careful not to roll into the jaws of a claptrap, though. Bouncing. While timing a jump to land on a Kremling's head, take a look around. A well-placed jump can often spring a monkey to a place where many hidden treasures lie. And the roll jump. Previously a trick reserved for professionals only. Everybody has to learn this technique now if DK and Diddy are to uncover 100% of Donkey Kong Land's secrets. Yeah, I guess, can you, like, 100% Donkey Kong Country without ever doing a roll jump? Probably. I feel like it wouldn't be as fun, and it would be harder, but I don't think any of the bonuses are, like, so out there that they would specifically require you to do that, so, okay. All in one, K. Rool's dominions occupy an altogether different dimension to Donkey and Diddy. So they really are just, like, they think this game takes place in some kind of, like, extra-dimensional realm, like, that's one way to, like, get around the new Donk City, Big Ape City debate. It's in a different dimension. And only one monkey is allowed to gain entrance through its magic portal at any one time. I guess that is true. They are getting to all these levels and leaving them through, like, magical portals. Makes you think. Gone are the trademark high fives and low tens, and in their place is something completely new and unexpected. Now one Kong shrinks out of sight, while the other prepares to zap through the portal and take their place. Providing their partner is in safekeeping, of course. You can't exchange places if one of them is hurt. Ramby, Rhino Robustmost. That is quite an adjective there. Robustmost. When there's a wall to fall, or Kremlings to crush, Ramby's your ride. Rely on Ramby to carry the Kong safely over rats and snakes, while using his horn to buff anything else into the stratosphere. I don't think there's rats in this game. I don't think, like, they had the neeks in this game yet or anything. I get beavers are kind of like big rats, sort of. Maybe the rats are just so small you can't even see them on the Game Boy screen, but they're there. Espresso, the uncanny ostrich. Man! Why is he uncanny? He's fine. He's normal, you know, he just has shoes. Otherwise, he's, like, the most normal ostrich of all time. Artful Antipodian bird of paradise. So far as the Kong brothers are concerned, the Kong brothers, they're not brothers. Espresso is determined to fly one day, so far being able to keep its feet off the ground long enough for the bros to snatch useful stuff from high up places. So Espresso is an it now, I guess, according to this. They didn't know Espresso's gender, so they just went with it. Poor Espresso. They just misgendering him and calling him uncanny. Like, what? You got to give him a little love, I think. You know, the Espresso information was out there by this time. It wasn't a secret. I don't know, they just didn't do their research on the poor guy. But you know who loves Espresso? Me. And I'm so excited for him to come to Bonanza soon, so I will be giving him the love that he deserves. putting his trophy in an honored place on Donkey Kong Island. Where there's smoke. Looking for clue. Well, okay, this ties into the book we just read, because, you know, they saw smoke coming out of the Big Ape City. Looking for clues is a major part of the fun in Donkey Kong Land, as the action takes place in a more compact area than Donkey Kong Country. Also, they did a weird thing with Rambi here, like, splitting him apart and putting him on either side, instead of, like, putting him in the middle or something. They split him in half. I don't know, like, I guess uncanny could just mean, like, extra special in some way, but when I think of uncanny, I think of, you know, I guess just maybe this word has gained that connotation more in previous decades where, you know, people are more aware of, like, the uncanny valley and stuff, but I think of something like unsettling. Looking for, maybe it's one of those British things, like uncanny it has different connotations in Britain. The action takes place in a more compact area than Donkey Kong Country. There's more chance of there being something special lurking around the next corner. It's up to you to help Donkey Kong or Diddy find it. Sometimes secrets are so well hidden you'll be forgiven for thinking that instinct is just about the only tool you can rely on. However, their whereabouts are usually indicated by some sign or another. Bananas are arranged in the shape of an arrow or question mark, for example. When something like this is spotted, there are a good many options at the savvy simian's disposal. That's not how you spell simian. Tire tread. I don't necessarily know if I want to, like, read this entire book. This entire book. So, yeah, okay, we know what tires do. Ropes. It's just, like, telling you various ways that you can get into bonuses. Now, rare coin it, that is a deep cut for the readers at home who might have not understood this reference at all, but, like, Rare Coin It was specifically the name they operated under when they made, like, arcade machines, Battletoads and Killer Instincts arcade machines and things like that, so, but that's the title they're going with here to talk about the coins in this game. Collect these tokens bearing DK and Diddy's image to buy extra time when entering the 1-up bonus room. Yeah, this stupid-ass bonus that I hate so much. Here, pressing a button by jumping up and down triggers a barrel to fire off more tokens, and each one is worth an extra life. Me more Nana. Okay. The author of this had they had a spiked banana milkshake, I think. they were having a bit of fun. Just as in Donkey Kong Country, collecting 100 bananas rewards Team Kong with an extra life. Bananas are sometimes bunched together in groups of 10, or even arranged to form some kind of pattern, often providing clues. Kong continues. I appreciate that. Yes, it is, talking about how the letters save in this. Yo, the Gangplank Galleon, here we go. We're getting to the good stuff. But you know what? I really gotta go to the bathroom, and it's about break time again, so we will, pick this back up in a few minutes. I will see you soon. Alright, so the Oxford English Dictionary defines uncanny as strange or mysterious, especially in an unsettling way. So, yeah, I don't know. This person was just kind of freaked out by ostriches, I guess. That's kind of understandable. Ostriches can be scary. Espresso is a pal, though, you know? He did get scarier in this game, though, because he can actually jump on people. Alright, let me settle in again real quick. Yeah, because we got some interesting stuff on this spread. Alright. K. Rool didn't suspect a thing. Not a banana. As DK and Diddy hitched a ride on his galleon, thus leading them to his secret hideout. Yeah, so nobody knew what was going on in this game. Everybody who had to touch some kind of, like, you know, novelization or description of the events of this game was just, like, making stuff up. So they were hitchhiking, they were being stowaways, rather, on the Gangplank Galleon. I mean, I guess that's not, like, necessarily untrue. I mean, after Cranky called up K. Rool and told him to do everything all over again, he had to probably bring his ship back to the island to steal the bananas, and then they just, like, hopped on board. So, you know. On this first stage of their voyage, the Kong brothers stop. They're not brothers. I mean, I guess I hope that this person is just being, like, figurative. Like, you know, everybody loves the Mario brothers, so we'll call the Kongs brothers too, because they're brothers in arms. But it just bothers me that he keeps calling them brothers. The Kong brothers soon discover that all is not so familiar. Don't forget, this is Kremling territory now. Where this is, like, making it sound like K. Rool brought them back to Crocodile Isle, which is maybe, since, you know, there was awareness at this time of Donkey Kong Country 2, which is just coming out in a few months, maybe that was the assumption of where this first world took place. But to me, I would just assume it's some kind of other nearby island that, you know, maybe it starts out on, like, the coast of Donkey Kong Island, and then they get on the Gangplank Galleon, and then they go to, like, nearby islands, I guess. Brother from another barrel. This is true. Everyone was under an NDA about the true treachery of Cranky Kong and the reality of the situation, so they just had to, like, make up something else. Arctic conditions rest comfortably alongside humid jungle. Most disturbing of all, though, is that here pigs really can fly. Everybody really hypes up the flying pigs in this game. They just thought that was, like, the funniest shit of all time. Everybody did. Back in the 90s, flying pigs, actually putting flying pigs in your game was, like, the height of humor. Getting cold feet. Brave as they are, the Kong brothers... I can't even acknowledge it anymore. Whatever, just gonna move on. The Kong brothers cannot help being chilled to the bone at this stage. There's ice afoot and it's cold and slippy with it. That almost every section of land here slopes toward gaping chasms doesn't help much either. So caution with speed is advised. A few moments respite are provided by a terrifying interlude of rope swinging among swarms of zingers. That doesn't sound like it provides a few moments respite. Actually, that sounds worse. Watch out for those zingers, as they're nastier than ever before. It isn't just the graphics that leave you breathless. Yeah, a lot of this game left me breathless. Look at how many lives they have, though. They've been grinding out the lives in this first world. Tremendous! Your first glimpse at Donkey Kong Land, and isn't it amazing? The jungle acts as a training area for the bros. Now they're just the bro. Like, what is this? The bros, where the treetops are explored for their wealth of bananas, amongst other surprises. Rambi is around here somewhere too, indicating the possibility of yet more secrets hidden away in caves. You know, the bros. Yeah, the Gangplank Galleon music I like it a lot in this game. I mean, I just like the music in this game in general. I like that some of it is completely original and some of it takes the original Donkey Kong Country music and takes it in a different direction. You know, it's kind of surprising. I haven't heard a lot of, like, people remix this music over the years and put it into different sound fonts and stuff, which it seems to me, like, really ripe for that kind of thing, because the tunes are super good. So I've done a little bit putting it into the Donkey Kong 64 sound font. It is a decent amount of work, but, you know, it's fun. It's fun hearing the result. Seafaring slippers, poisonous snakes from Donkey Kong Island, have infested the rigging on Gangplank Galleon, which makes clambering between the ropes a nightmare. Yeah, honestly, the slippers are really annoying. It's pretty hard to deal with them. Many Neckies perch on the mast, gobbing pieces of eight at our chimpy chums, while batty rats... Okay, so there were going to be rats in this game originally, but I don't think they ended up in the game. And according to this, the many Neckies are not shooting out nuts with their explosive... It's like coins, which is actually pretty cool. You know, that's something they could have done in Donkey Kong Country 2, is the mini Neckies who are more, like, explicitly pirate-themed could have been, like, spitting out, like, coins at you. That'd be neat. Doubloons. Maybe there'll be a hogwash statue, in Bonanza. Maybe they're saving hogwash for Bonanza 2. You know, they're saving Clump and hogwash, the ones that the people demand the most. They gotta, like... They gotta keep us hanging. They gotta give some people, like, reason to buy the sequel. They can't just blow everything in the first game, you know? Also, hi, Yellow Pikachu. Recognize this trick. It's one Donkey Kong picked up from DK Jr. Okay, so again with the coming down hard on headcanons and these, very, very much saying that Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr. are different people. Although I don't know if the person who wrote this was paying enough attention to the lore, and maybe they think that, like, Donkey Kong Jr. is his son instead of, like, his dad. Like, they don't know the Cranky being the original Donkey Kong lore. This is the best line, though. I saw this out of the corner of my eye. K. Rool's screams upon his defeat triggered a landslide big enough to block the road in 2 places. He just onked so loud that it caused an avalanche, and as far as I'm concerned, that's completely canon. Like, I love that. The onk heard around the world, and it reverberated, all the way from out in the ocean. It reverberated back onto Donkey Kong Island and caused some rocks to fall. There's no way around either rock pile, so either Donkey Kong or Diddy must find another way through. Above. Doesn't make sense, does it? Winter Wonderland sitting right next door to a tropical paradise. They need to proofread this a little better. But that's Kremlings for you. Mad. They are. Like, okay, they're really emphasizing that there is snow located in close proximity to the jungles and whatever here, but I don't know. I kind of just take this first world as being a very condensed version of, like, oh, we're traveling through Donkey Kong Island, so, you know, we go from the jungle to the snow, and it's not, like, that big of a deal. It's not like they're literally right next to each other. It's just more of a suggestion, but, random sound effect. All right, here goes. Dying from falling in the lava, which, honestly, I could go for that right now. I'm really cold. Here, I know what you want, though, so give me a second. Here's what caused the avalanche. There you go. Uh-oh, I probably just caused an avalanche in your hometown if you were listening to this out loud. Alright, but with all the emphasis they're placing on, like, the snow is right next to the jungle, that's insane. It makes it sound like the Kremlings were, like, stealing some magic from the Snowmads way back. This is after Frederick and K. Rool dated, and K. Rool stole some secrets from the Snowmads. They made things a little bit icier. They weren't kidding, this pig really can fly. Hogwash minds his own business, but is a pain-in-the-neck obstacle all the same. His constant low-level reconnaissance for possible truffle sites makes it difficult for the Kongs to jump around as much as they'd like. Yeah, Hogwash is just like... he's just flying around. He's just enjoying his wings, as a pig with wings should do. And he's not really even, like, causing harm. He's just, you know, he's just vibing. I like the, like, random 2 ditties and expressives down there, just to... you know, throw in 2 of them. We got the space. Boss, Manta Ray! During their first encounter with K. Rool's new breed of Guardian, the Kongs discovered that a fish out of water isn't necessarily at a disadvantage. First of all, their name is Wild Sting. Put some respect on it. Manta Ray uses its wings to swoop high and low, forcing its prey to dart uncertainly about the ship's deck. The more he is hurt, the angrier he gets, and the faster he flies. Kremanity! Just gonna cut this page out here. Rock-hewn and rock-solid is Kremanity, ancient home of K. Rool's masterful predecessors. Slightly worse off for water than the good ship Gangplank, seeing as the entire kingdom is submerged. The majority of Kremanity wards have survived through being trapped in air pockets, though mutant winds roam... the poop tornadoes roam freely about, so beware. Of course, it's inevitable that some areas are flooded by ice water, too. And it's here that DK and Diddy encounter the worst of their fears! Nautilus! Okay. This was pretty scary. I mean, the way this thing moved, we talked about, is a little freaky. The way it, like, pulses at you, and it's got its little wiggly tendrils, so... yeah, that is admittedly pretty scary. Where Squidge left off, Nautilus takes over. I think maybe croctopus is what would have made more sense to say there, but Nautilus takes over, chasing apes who pass within a few inches of its repulsive shell down a perilous undersea labyrinth at breakneck speed. Sometimes Nautilus likes to guard entrances to treasure troves. Are you skillful enough to lure him away? Okay, there's no bonuses in the underwater levels, but I guess maybe there's some like good bananas and stuff hidden away. I don't care. I was getting out of there as quickly as I could. One little shellfish treading water is no obstacle. It's when Nemo, the beetle-like sea creature, joins forces with a bunch of friends that's the worry. Negotiating a safe passage through Nemo ranks involves a struggle to contain movement underwater, all the while concentrating on perfect timing. Small, cute even, but extremely deadly. Dude, this fish, it's the eye lips emoji. Fangfish. I don't know why they're called fangfishes, because they don't, I mean, maybe they have fangs, but they're not really biting you with it. They're just kind of coming at you with their big lips. Gonna give you a big kiss. Chomp, step aside. No ape-eating shark is a match for fangfish. King of the deep! Rumor has it that fangfish's line dates back to the days when Kremanity ruled above the waves. Years of predatory experience have taught this breed perfect hunting skills, and it's said the wretched creature uses the bones of ape to digest its food. Warg! Holy shit, they really went hard trying to make this thing actually seem scary, because really, it does not. It does not seem scary. They had to work so hard to try to sell this thing to you as a frightening enemy. I appreciate the effort. Alright. Diddy lets Crusha cop it with a keg to the conch. Ooh, that's an impressive, impressive use of K's there. Lots of them. It's Swirlwind, and they decided to not make it brown in this, which was a great idea. I'm glad that I don't have to look at that anymore. They made it a much more sensible color. A tornado that appears to offer more help than hindrance at first, posing as a raised platform providing access to higher places. However, once something is trapped by Swirlwind's vortex, it's tough to break free, so the bros are careful. I feel like I'm playing like a Mario and Luigi game or something. The bros are careful to avoid backing themselves into corners where Swirlwind is sure to find them. Boss! Clambo! Tackling this boss on the swim places our boys in a more precarious position than they'd like. Clambo fires pearls the size of cannonballs from the safety of its shell. They're valuable, sure, but the damage they cause is more costly. The only other object in Clambo's lair is a sponge. Oh, that's what that's supposed to be. Okay, I had no idea what this... based on what this magazine is saying, I don't necessarily buy it's a sponge either, but okay, we can call it as a sponge. Which chooses to disappear and reappear in random corners of the room. What folly is this? That's me playing this entire game. The mountains. Look at how cute this mole is. Look at him. They're weird pupils. These mountains don't just sit there and look mountainous. They let anybody who gets within 100 meters know they're in the Rockies by dropping extremely large Rockies onto their heads. A large boulder the size of a small boulder. If K. Rool wants to make it more dangerous for the Kongs, he needs to just go out there and start yelling again. That's probably what was happening, actually. Unfortunately, this is the only route available between Kremlantis and Big Ape City, or so K. Rool's Book of the Road tells you. Hey, wait a minute. So they're just like... K. Rool just left them like a travel brochure, and they're just going along with it. Amid the steady downpour of rocks and boulders, I don't even know if they're gonna mention the cloud levels over here. Making a veritable nuisance of himself, there lurks Army the Armadillo. Those ledges wide enough to accommodate an ape are hard enough to obtain, as it is, without fear of having your ankles bashed into by the equivalent of a runaway skateboard. Army shares the pleasure of making the Kong's mountain jaunt difficult, with Critter and Krusha Kremlings out to make trouble too. As if being suspended thousands of feet above sea level isn't bad enough, the Kongs find themselves leaping from vaporous platforms in this stage. Miniature clouds can support the weight of one monkey for just over a second before dispersing into the breeze. This gives barely enough time to think before moving on to yet more insubstantial footholds. Did somebody call for mother? Well, a Kremling does when they see Chunky Kong. Boss, Hard Hat. This cunning mole has dug himself a network of 3 tunnels. the exits of which serve as strategic points from which he can launch surprise attacks on any intruders. When he's not wearing his hat to protect his skull, he's throwing it out to bowl people over. What's a monkey to do in such a tricky situation as this? Jump to it. Where these platforms go is largely up to Kong. They're still calling him Kong. They follow the gray area as a rule, but their direction is altered by jumping up and down. As you might imagine, this is a very tricky exercise, especially where hogwashes and zingers linger all about. The reward for precision maneuvering is worth the trouble it takes to practice, though. Yeah, getting past that level is worth the trouble, because there's only one of them in the game like that, thankfully. Big Ape City, there! Okay, there we have it. So, we made it back to the animal buddy that doesn't exist. This picture of Diddy over here in the corner is perfect, because he's looking for this animal buddy all around and he can't find him. Kremlock, okay, first of all, that's not a thing. Kremlock Industries hijacked this horrendous smog-filled metropolis and made it their own. It's touted as a smorgasbord of iron and concrete laced with hogwash and party balloons. But it's the toughest mother of a platform gauntlet that DK and Diddy have ever run. Ramhead. Ooh, looks like this fellow jumped straight out of a Clive Barker flick. Does it? I don't know. I don't know anything about Clive Barker movies. What do they have to do with rams? Where he lurks within Donkey Kong Land shall remain a mystery until you actually play the game for yourself. Wow, I guess we truly didn't 100% the game, because we did not solve this mystery. We did not find the missing ram child. He's harder than any Clump or Crusher, though. Rest assured of that. Yeah, he's harder to find. Well, he's equally as hard to find as Clump in this game. But I actually have some insider info about this little guy. So first of all, this ram has the fan name of Rambunctious, but I don't know where that came from because I don't see it anywhere mentioned here. They're just calling them a ram, so I don't know if that was like invented later on, or if it's like maybe in one of the magazines we're going to look at later, but I don't think this thing has a name. But apparently, so I listened to an interview with the main programmer of Donkey Kong Land, and this ram was actually made by one of the artists as essentially just a test, because people on the Donkey Kong Land team, a lot of them were just kind of learning to make 3D renders in the first place, so they were really learning it as they went to make the new assets on this game. And someone essentially just made this ram because they wanted to see if they could like make the big curly horns, and they just kind of made it as like a practice, basically. And they liked it. The whole team liked it. They were like, this ram's cute. We should put it in the game. So they did get it like animated and stuff, but they couldn't remember if they ever actually put it in the game or not. If it was ever in the game, it was taken out just as quickly. They didn't really have a place for it, especially with Rambi already existing. This ram would have been a little redundant. So basically this ram was just made for practice, but it got sent out with a bunch of other renders, because they thought, hey, we'll work this into the game. We'll figure out a way to put it in there. And then they didn't end up doing that, but this ram did make it out into the wild. And, you know, it's the lost animal buddy. Maybe they'll bring this little guy back again someday. Kind of want to draw this fellow. I never have. Yeah, this is a cutie. But yeah, it wasn't like this was a thing that was in the game and they took it out at the last minute. It was, its status of being in the game at all was always somewhat dubious. The most common obstacle met in Big Ape City is the balloon. Being tonked about the head. I mean, I love this song, but it seems like so loud compared to the other ones. Anyway, being tonked about the head a bit with one is something the boys find quite a laugh from time to time. What, do they just, like, hit each other on the... What does that mean? Is it talking about them, like, hitting each other on the head with balloons, or, like, inhaling the helium and doing the silly voice thing? I don't know. I don't know what tonked about means. But using such a tiny pocket of air as a platform, forget it. If only they could, as these balloons are the only means to get across the majority of areas here. They're small, and they get even smaller by deflating, which causes them to fall out of view on occasion, forcing Donkey Kong and Diddy to make mini blind leaps. Cripes, look how tricky it gets here! I like how whoever wrote this, they're not even offering, like, strategies a lot of the time. They're just kind of complaining about the game. They're like, what is this nonsense? This is some bullshit. This is awful. But as you can see, they still reviewed the game very highly, which we will get to in just a minute. Kong spells bridge. More balloon-related action here, only this time it's a giant blimp, emblazoned with Donkey Kong's initials. Those Kremlings have got a nerve. Yeah, I guess, they think that the Kremlings are, like, mocking the Kongs by using the Kong letters in their own blimp instead of it being some kind of Kong magic that they themselves are responsible for. It seems that collecting the all-important Kong Tinyu is a breeze, as all the letters are relatively easy to obtain. However, it turns out that these particular letters are bogus! At least they serve a different purpose than usual, for they are transformed into walkways by special switches as the stage progresses. The harder it is to glean each icon where KO means knockout for a monkey who doesn't have N and G to make up the distance. It's really not that bad. You can really skip a letter or two here. You don't have to get all of them. Alright. Nervous Rex. This, dear readers of the free booklets variety, is about as far as we're willing to take you. Heaven knows we just can't handle another hour sat in front of the image grabber, trying to keep DK and Diddy alive for the sake of screenshots which give it all away. If you want any more help once you've got the game, all the clues you need are being readied for a player's guide to feature in a future issue. You're going to need it, believe us. Okay, maybe that's the one in Nintendo Power. I don't know. Like I said, I couldn't find a separate standalone player's guide for this. Ah, so we've got some reviews here. Paul says... At first I was confused because I thought they were talking about, like, characters in the game. It's like, is Paul the name of the ram now? But Paul says, for Donkey Kong Land to succeed, it had to overcome a series of obstacles. Clarity, depth, and challenge. The first was always going to be a problem. There hasn't been a Game Boy title yet with graphics so intensely detailed as this, that doesn't blur when moving at speed. And DKL is fast. Remarkably, though it's possible to play almost without thinking about the limitations. And DKL plays better than DKC. No joke. That is not true! Paul, you're crazy! Paul, that is a joke. Paul, please. Paul, please. I know you're trying to sell this game to people, but that does not play better than... Look, I like this game. I'm a defender of this game. I think it's very creative. I think they did a great job with the limitations they were given. I think they were very creative with it, and they programmed it about as well as you could reasonably expect, but it does not play better than DKC. Maybe Paul Makachek wrote that. I don't know who Andy is, though. Andy, what's his name? Andy Robinson, that one guy who worked on Ukulele. It could have been him, honestly. I don't know how long he's been a games journalist. But some guy named Andy says, slam Donkey Kong Land into a Super Game Boy, and you'd be forgiven for thinking that someone had come in and messed around with the color while you weren't looking. Play it for a short while, and you might wonder why you bothered playing all those Mario games. Alright, they're just putting down... Seems like something Nintendo wouldn't really do these days. You gotta put down your main mascot. Let me put it plainly. This game is a marvel. It's a credit to Rare that they've managed to wedge in such an amount of detail, but the highest testimony is that there's so much game in here too. If anything, it's better gameplay-wise than Super NES DKC. Stop! Stop! These people are crazy! I feel like I'm taking crazy pills here. As Paul mentions, the amount of detail does confuse on occasions on a regular Game Boy, but certainly no more so than most other games. It's big, it's rock hard, and it's brilliant. I love this game! Alright, they found the biggest fans of Donkey Kong Land in the entire fucking universe to write the reviews here. They're like, everybody's already bought DKC who's gonna buy it. We can just say this game is better. I mean, it's just an opinion. No one can prove us wrong. Yeah, Paul loves changing the direction of platforms by jumping on them. Graphics. What wizardry is this? We'd make you a long list of incredible things to look out for, but you're likely to compile one of your own. Amazing. Blurs in graphically intense areas on the small screen. But then, don't they all? 97 for graphics. Okay, well. As far as things that were impressive on the Game Boy, it is pretty impressive. I mean, it's a little hard to tell what's going on sometimes, but they got around that by saying the Kremlings were camouflaging themselves on purpose. Faithfully reproduces many of the Super NES themes, alongside some new classics of its own. The very best you can expect to hear from Game Boy. That I agree with. I mean, there's a lot of Game Boy games that have great soundtracks, but this has got to be up there, you know? It's instantly more playable than Donkey Kong Country and richer as a whole in terms of reward. I don't think I can take much more of this, y'all. I don't know. I'm being gaslit right now. I feel like... I mean, at least they're you know, they're putting down Donkey Kong Country in order to uplift another Donkey Kong game. But I can't even say these things. I can't even make them come out of my mouth. Edge of your seat action all the way. Yeah, you're on the edge of your seat because you're always on like a fucking tiny-ass platform. Fewer animal friends to make use of. It's sometimes hard to make out what's going on from when playing from the standard Game Boy screen. From when playing from the standard Game Boy screen. I thought I was like reading it wrong there, but no, that's what it actually says. Last stability. Time is not a factor when tricky problems as those contained here arise in such volume. What a sentence. It's whether you can overcome them or not that counts in the end. Even so, you'll be wanting to better that track record too. Overall, does for the Game Boy what Donkey Kong Country did for the Super NES. In some ways, it's even better. An absolute marvel that you cannot afford to miss. Alright, well. I'm confused. These numbers down here, are they like out of 5 or something? It's interesting that they rated originality so low, when I would say that's one of this game's strengths. Like, it didn't just copy Donkey Kong Country, it added a lot of original stuff, but I guess because it is technically, like, the second game in a series, it does borrow a lot of elements from it. Technically, it's not... It's original in its context, but... Last stability. Yeah, I don't know, maybe they weight some of these more than others. Like, they weight graphics the highest, I guess, because that's the only thing that could possibly pull this up that much. Not even any of these others is like, none of these even reaches 96. Graphics is the only one that goes past it. Alright, check this out. But tell you what, I think we're gonna come back to this when we do Donkey Kong Country 2 stuff. Now, we could do a little preview of the next stream, of the next chapter of the Kremling Kronology, but I think you all know, first of all, why is this in black and white? I don't know, but I think you all know what Donkey Kong Country 2 is. I don't think we need to, like, tease it too much. So I'm just going to look at this instead. Play Donkey Kong Land on a new Play It Loud Game Boy. The new Play It Loud series of Game Boys comes in 5 cool new colors: vibrant yellow, radiant red, gorgeous green, deep black, and a high-tech transparent. Obviously the high-tech transparent one is the coolest. If this sounds too good to you, wait until you get a load of this. This is what my brother's Game Boy Color was. He had like the purple transparent one, and mine was lime green. Nintendo are offering one of each color along with 5 banana yellow copies of Donkey Kong Land as competition prizes. That makes 5 first prize winners, folks! To win, all you have to do is write the answers to these 3 questions on a postcard and send it to the address printed below. Good luck. I'm losing my ability to talk. Blech. In what year was the original Donkey Kong coin-op released? Name the first 2 games to be released with Game Boy in Japan. It might be a little harder to look these up back in the day when there wasn't, like, Wikipedia and stuff. Which famous NES series was released on gold-colored game packs? Zelda, right? That's the last one. And then you mail it in. To Nintendo of Europe, Nintendo of Britain. And that's that. Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that, like, the whole transparent tech thing was such a big deal in, like, the 90s and maybe early 2000s that it has such a, like... You know, people associate it with that time, and they don't want to go back to doing anything that's, like, would be, you know, retro-coded at this point, because it's got such a strong association with the time that it was really popular, and so it makes people think it's, like, a nostalgic throwback or something, and they're like, no, we have to be cutting edge and boring and minimalistic and stuff, so I guess that's why they just don't do it anymore. Okay, well, you know, we have an entire other magazine to go through, but there's actually a lot. There is a lot in that one, because not only does it have Donkey Kong Land coverage, but it has, like, a whole feature on how Rare made the graphics for their games, and it has, like, Donkey Kong Country 2 preview, and I'm gonna be real with you. I told you earlier that I was feeling a little under the weather today, and I thought I can probably stream for, like, 3 hours or something, and I was kind of expecting to get through the book and stuff faster, so I don't know if I have it in me to... Because, like, I'm really starting to feel tired. I don't think I have it in me to do the Donkey Kong Land Nintendo Power, which I did promise, you know, Hyle DK Vine's favorite ever, most important ever, first ever copy of Nintendo Power. I did promise to look at that today, but I don't think I can do it. I don't think I can do it justice. So I think we're gonna have to do that soon. And so like I told you, next weekend I'm probably going to be out on Saturday. So we won't do it then. And I was planning to just take a week off, but I think we'll have to get to the other magazine, and it might be a little bit of a shorter stream, but I'll have to do that on a different stream because I don't think I can do it today. So maybe on Wednesday, actually. Wednesdays normally, well, I don't know. I don't want to promise that. I normally do these on weekends so that everyone can come, or more people can come. So I'll try to do it Friday night. Well, let's plan on Friday night. Like I said, I might be out Saturday, so I can't plan anything then. But we'll do it Friday, which is the 6th, I think. Yeah. So plan on kind of a little Kremling Kronology stream, which I may or may not just append onto this one when I upload it to YouTube. I might just stick them together. It depends on how long it ends up being total. But yeah, I know. Well, look, I have to get back to the Pokemon run as well. So maybe I'll get a chance to do that this week, I hope, and then I can save this for the weekend. And then I don't have to take a week off from the chronology. I just wanted to give myself some more time before we get to DKC2, because there's, like, some stuff I need to get together, and I need to make the, like, announcement for the next chapter, because we're moving thematically into the Donkey Kong Country 2 chapter, and it's got, you know, there's different vibes to the series once we get there. But yes, this is not quite the end of the chapter yet. I thought it was going to be, but surprise, there's an epilogue, and it'll be Friday, because I'm, like, tired. I need to go, like, rest and make dinner and stuff. But yeah, thank you all for hanging out and looking at silly stuff with me again and reading that utterly ridiculous book.